Chapter 1972. Senior. I'll lend it to you. The young man who looked like a beggar actually dared to gamble. The 1,000 strands of money might be his savings. Wind Wolf glared at the young beggar and scolded coldly, "Kid, mind your own business. Otherwise, I'll break your bones." Fan Yin was overjoyed. She stared at Wind Wolf and said in a muffled voice, "Since you said you want to follow the rules of Wolf Pass, then please follow the rules. If he's willing to lend it to me, then that's between us." Although the young beggar was afraid of Wind Wolf, the light in his eyes shone even brighter. He stared at Fan Yin as if he was anticipating her promise. Fan Yin knew that the young beggar was her only hope. She immediately increased her strength and said, "Little brother, I'm a woman of my word. If you lend me the 1,000 strands of money, I can definitely give you a lifetime of wealth. It's just a city. It's nothing to me." Then, without waiting for the young beggar to go back on his word, Fan Yin said to the waiter, "Give me a room." Fan Yin seemed to have regained her vitality before death. Her chi and blood rose again, and her face turned red. How could the waiter resist Fan Yin's temptation? He quickly gave Fan Yin a room. After getting the room, he took the money from the young beggar and quickly led Fan Yin upstairs. The young beggar didn't dare to stay in the inn any longer. He also ran back to his room. Wind Wolf's eyes were filled with killing intent. He clenched his fists and wanted to chase after the young beggar. At this moment, a powerful aura enveloped Wolf Pass Inn. A deep voice resounded in the inn's hall. "If I'm not in Wolf Pass, does that mean my authority is no longer there?" Wind Wolf's hair stood on end. He trembled and quickly retreated. "A few wolf cubs dare to challenge the authority of my Wolf Pass?" Whoosh! A figure flashed and blocked Wind Wolf's path. Wind Wolf looked up. Who else could it be but the inn's owner? Northwest Wolf Pass was this person's name. He looked to be in his 40s. He had a square face and a dignified expression. He had sharp eyebrows and black eyes. His energy formed a faint energy shield around him. He was definitely an upper-level expert. He was also one of the top experts in the Northwest region. He was the king of the land. He was nothing in the outside world, but in the Northwest region, he had the final say. "Lord Wolf, I don't dare. I just want to." Wind Wolf bowed and smiled. "What are you thinking about? You want to cause trouble in my restaurant? Do you know why my restaurant charges such a high price? It's because this place is safe enough that anyone who wants to cause trouble here has to ask me first. Now, scram out of the restaurant. You will not be allowed to enter for 100 years, Northwest Wolf Pass coldly reprimanded. Wind Wolf and the few men beside him carried their giant axes and heavy swords and ran out of the restaurant, not daring to quibble. Although Fan Yin was in a sorry state and had almost been humiliated, in a village thousands of li away, Xia Zhilong was not in a good state either. His entire right arm was broken and there was a clear mark on his neck. He had almost been strangled to death. Xia Zhilong's face was pale, and his clothes were tattered. Even his dragon robe was torn, and he looked like a beggar. His combat strength had been reduced by 80 to 90%. "Damn Fan Yin, your battle prowess has improved so much. If I hadn't used my trump card, I might have really fallen into her hand." Xia Zhilong leaned against a haystack. His breathing was rapid and blood was flowing. He did not dare to run around now. If he was bumped into by some blind person, he would definitely lose his life here. Xia Zhilong hid in the haystack to recover his cultivation, but the speed was very slow. He had been here for 3 days and had only recovered 20% of his strength. He was still unable to recover his injuries to his previous state. Looking at the small village, Xia Zhilong frowned and thought for a moment. He decided to take the risk and enter the village to stay for 3 to 5 days. However, when he saw the stone tablet at the entrance of the village, Xia Zhilong hesitated. Evil Ghost Village. There were only 3 words on the stone tablet, but it was shocking. The mark on this stone tablet seems to have the mark of an upper level. Could there be an upper level in this village? Xia Zhilong did not dare to be sure. However, in order to quickly recover his strength, he had to take the risk. Because when he fought with Fanine, their storage rings were all shattered. He was only slightly better. The village was filled with hostility and quarrels. It was not like an ordinary village at all. There were constantly words like, "I'll kill you." Just as Xia Zhilong entered the center of the village, he was stared at by a group of aunties. "What a handsome young man. Seeing that he's not from here, we can extort some money. Even if we can't, we can still take advantage of him." An ugly auntie smiled evilly. "Not bad, not bad. Looks like he's a young master. He's also injured and not from here. We can't extort him." A few aunties discussed softly. Xia Zhilong never thought that he would become the target of extortion. "Young man, what are you looking at? Haven't you seen a woman as beautiful as me?" A burly auntie dragged a fat body. She was at least 200 kilograms and 1.8 meters tall. No matter how one looked at her, she did not look like a woman. She came in front of Xia Zhilong and grabbed him by the shoulder. She actually pressed down on him until he was half a head shorter. He almost knelt on the ground. Xia Zhilong's face turned purple. His gaze was vicious. With one look, he knew that this auntie was an expert. She was actually a lower-level cultivator. Even an auntie was a lower-level cultivator. It seemed that there were many experts in the village. Therefore, he did not dare to act rashly. "Granny, I'm just passing by and want to stay here for a few days. I didn't mean to profane your beauty." Xia Zhilong said against his will. "You want to stay here? Are you coveting this old lady's beauty? You want to take advantage of my body at night?" The burly auntie roared. "Who?" Xia Zhilong almost vomited blood. His clenched fists slowly loosened. He bowed and said, "How would I dare to covet your beauty? I'm just a little injured. Unfortunately, my storage ring is broken. I want to borrow some water and food. Granny, please don't misunderstand." When the aunties heard that his storage ring was broken, they immediately lost interest. Especially the burly auntie who was holding Xia Zhilong's shoulder. She directly pulled Xia Zhilong up and threw him out. "So you're a poor ghost. I've suffered a great loss. Hurry up and scram. I'll let you take one more look and you'll take advantage of me. If you don't leave, I'll dig your eyes out." The auntie angrily rebuked. Xia Zhilong was burning with anger. The nine-dragon fan almost rushed out of his sea of consciousness, wanting to kill everyone. However, for safety, he had to endure. However, the aunties didn't seem to have any intention of letting him go. Instead, they surrounded him. "Does this guy really not have anything valuable on him? Let me search." "I'll also search." The aunties quickly pressed down on Xia Zhilong. They all reached into Xia Zhilong's chest. Some of them even touched Xia Zhilong's lower body, scaring him so much that he almost went berserk. "What do you want?" Xia Zhilong roared. His face was red. He had never been humiliated like this before. At this time, one of the aunties pulled out a piece of jewelry from his waist. This was a symbol of status. If this was the Holy Empire's imperial city, who wouldn't kneel down upon seeing this? However, the aunties' faces were filled with joy. "This is something valuable. We'll take it as payment for him looking at us." The burly auntie patted her large chest, causing her fat to jiggle. Xia Zhilong's body trembled. He didn't think that not only would he not be able to borrow water, room, and food, but he would also lose the symbol of his status. Chapter 1973. Xia Zhilong was robbed clean, and even his clothes were almost stripped off. If not for the fact that the dragon robe was in tatters and had no value, these aunties would have stripped him of his clothes. When the aunties saw the waist, they knew that it was worth a lot. However, they did not know that Xia Zhilong was the crown prince of the Holy Empire. Xia Zhilong took a deep breath and calmed his crazy heart. He said in a low voice, "Aunties, I've given you the waist. Can you lend me a room?" Come to this, Emperor. I'll definitely repay you generously. This little bit of wealth is nothing. Giving you tens of millions of faith coins is not a problem. Tens of millions of faith coins. The auntie's eyes turned green as they stared at Xia Jilong as if they were looking at a treasure. Come to my house. An auntie excitedly invited. Young man, come to my house. I can take special care of you at night. Another auntie with thick skin winked and tempted. Xia Jilong almost vomited when he saw all of them flirting. However, he still had to appear very grateful. He kept nodding and carefully looked at them. In the end, he found an auntie with a good attitude. At least her mental state was fine. He did not want to disgust himself. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was rapidly approaching the northwest region. However, Xian Xiu and the others were hot on his heels. Sometimes, they didn't even care about him and would just fly through the air. Both sides had reached their limits. After flying for more than 10 days, both sides entered the northwest region. Right now, Xia Jilong and senior sister Fanning should be in the northwest region. It's just that we can't confirm their exact location. How should we find them? Yi Qinghan frowned and muttered to himself. The divine bird looked at the northwest region where even birds would not shit. It rolled its eyes and said, "This damned place is sparsely populated. Both of them are injured, so they definitely won't dare to enter the big cities, small villages, and small towns. This is the most likely place for them to stay. Let's slowly search." The northwest region was huge. There were countless villages and many small towns. If they wanted to search one by one, they would probably be able to find them until the end of time. Divine bird, can you ask spiritual beasts, spiritual birds, and spiritual plants with spiritual fluctuations to help? Yi Qinghan asked. The divine bird glanced at Yi Qinghan, curled its lips and said, "If there are no benefits, only I would be willing to help you. Do you think that other spiritual beasts and spiritual birds, who are not related to you, would help you?" Yi Qinghan immediately said, "Anyone who finds senior sister Fanning or Xia Jilong will receive 10 enlightenment pills and 10 form transformation pills. Isn't that a great reward?" "Understood. I will definitely settle this matter for you." The divine bird rushed into the forest. Not long after, all the spirit birds and flying beasts in the forest soared into the sky, and the beasts rushed in all directions. Even the spirit plants with soul waves could spread the news, searching for the whereabouts of Fan Yin and Xia Jilong. The divine bird flew back to Yi Qinghan's shoulder and said proudly, "Don't worry, this divine bird is not good at dealing with humans, but controlling these low-level spiritual beasts is not a problem." Yi Qinghan nodded and led the divine bird into the depths. Although there were many mountain ranges in the northwest, there were even more deserts and deserts. Many places were not suitable for human survival, so there were very few villages. Yi Qinghan deliberately left some traces to lead Xian Xiu and the others in another direction. Then, he changed directions and sped off. After searching for more than 50 kilometers, he found a village. Most of the people in the village were low-level mortals. There was not even a single cultivator. After asking around, he left. Several days later, a flying beast finally flew over and chattered with the divine bird for a while. It looked at Yi Qinghan with anticipation. Yi Qinghan did not understand the language of beasts, so he looked at the divine bird. The divine bird said excitedly, "I didn't find your great beauty Fanning, but I did find Xia Jilong. According to the news, Xia Jilong's injuries are not light. Should we take the opportunity to kill Xia Jilong?" Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he thought to himself, "Killing Xia Jilong is no small matter. If I did not have any power, killing him would not be a big deal. At worst, I could just run away. However, the eccentric sect is still around. If I kill him, the Holy Empire will not give me face and will not hesitate to destroy the eccentric sect." After thinking about it, Yi Qinghan still did not make up his mind to kill Xia Jilong. He asked, "Where is Xia Jilong now?" in the evil ghost village in the northwest. It's about 15 kilometers away from here, the divine bird immediately replied. Yi Qinghan made a rough estimation and said, Senior Sister Fan Yin's injuries are definitely worse than Xia Jilong's. Since Xia Jilong is in the evil ghost village, Senior Sister Fan Yin must still be in the northwest. Let's continue forward and reach the evil ghost village first. Screech! The bird suddenly roared angrily, as if Yi Qinghan had ignored it and made it very angry. Yi Qinghan laughed awkwardly and said, I only have 3 form transformation pills and 2 enlightenment pills. Follow me first and I will buy them for you when I reach the big city. How about that? The bird was very intelligent and naturally knew what Yi Qinghan was talking about. 3 form transformation pills were enough for it. If it could transform into a human, its cultivation would be twice as fast with half the effort. Furthermore, it could cultivate human cultivation techniques. Transforming was the most important thing for birds and beasts, so it kept nodding. Yi Qinghan casually handed the form transformation pills and enlightenment pills to the bird and rushed towards the evil ghost village in the northwest with the divine bird. Whoosh! The bird sped forward and followed closely behind Yi Qinghan, but its speed was far inferior to Yi Qinghan's. The distance between them grew larger and larger. In the end, it roared angrily, thinking that Yi Qinghan was going to act shamelessly. The divine bird translated. Yi Qinghan did not want to offend the bird. If he wanted to find Fan Yin, he would have to rely on the bird. Without its credibility, if the bird spouted nonsense, finding Fan Yin on his own would be like finding a needle in a haystack. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and grabbed the bird, quickly disappearing into the plains. About a day after Yi Qinghan left, Xian Xiu appeared with 3 blood-robed guards, panting. Their eyes were filled with anger. Damn it, does this Yi Qinghan not know fatigue? We chased him for so long, but not only did we fail to close the distance, we even let him get further away. If His Highness finds out, how are we going to answer to him? Xian Xiu said angrily. This damned Yi Qinghan is too resilient. After running for so long, it's as if he doesn't know fatigue. Us upper realm cultivators need to rest. Damn it, what the hell? The blood-robed guard roared, unwilling to give up. The others can't keep up. Only the 4 of us are left. We have to speed up and catch up to him even if we have to risk our lives. We have to kill this bastard at all costs, Xian Xiu said coldly. Wait until I catch him. I'll torture this bastard. I'll make him beg for death. One of the blood-robed guards gritted his teeth, flicked his sleeves, and charged into the distance. While they were running, Yi Qinghan arrived at the entrance of the evil ghost village. He looked at the 3 words on the stone tablet and clenched his fists. In the end, he couldn't hold back and stepped in. Chapter 1974. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Yi Qinghan stepped into the village. It was noisy and chaotic. It was like a small pugilistic world. Even the children were fighting without any regard for their lives. Bricks and wooden sticks were all broken. Yi Qinghan frowned. He looked at the villagers who were like evil spirits. They had no morals at all. The older ones were fighting with the younger ones, while the younger ones were fighting with the older ones. He wondered who these people were. F***ck, don't tell me all the evil people in the world have gathered in this village? The divine bird said in surprise. Yi Qinghan entered the village's small path. He looked at the group of people who were in a mess. He spread his divine perception outwards, searching for Xia Jilong's location. The aunties who were dealing with Xia Jilong were arguing over some small benefit. They were even close to fighting. However, they stopped arguing the moment Yi Qinghan appeared. Hey, another outsider. Let's unite against the outside world and take advantage of him first. The boorish auntie dragged her fat body towards Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! The other 4 aunties also followed. They were imposing as if they were about to fight. Yi Qinghan looked at the aunties walking over and said with a smile, "Greetings, aunties. I was just passing by and didn't mean to disturb you. I hope you don't take offense. The leader, the fattest auntie, looked at Yi Qinghan's smiling face and reprimanded him unhappily. Look at your perverted smile. Are you fantasizing about us and harboring ill intentions? Yi Qinghan was speechless. The divine bird and Yi Qinghan looked at each other. They didn't know how to refute. I hate sanctimonious people like you the most. You look like you're all smiles, but in reality, you're hiding a knife behind your smile. You're trying to trick us beautiful women, but once you've gotten your hands on us, you'll abandon us without a care. An extremely ugly auntie looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain. Yi Qinghan was speechless. What? Are you angry out of humiliation? Have we exposed you? Are you trying to force yourself on us? I'm not someone to be trifled with. The fat auntie in the lead quickly rushed in front of Yi Qinghan. Her large hand quickly reached for Yi Qinghan's chest. Her speed was extremely fast. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan twisted his body and slid past like a loach, avoiding the woman's grasp. Please don't misunderstand, I'm here to look for someone. Excuses. You sanctimonious thieves are just like that. Glib tongues. Once you're exposed, you'll find all kinds of excuses. That's right, hooligan. He actually dared to dodge. It means that you're guilty. Yi Qinghan broke out in a cold sweat. He looked at the village women who looked like shrews. Their cultivation levels were quite exaggerated. He immediately thought to himself, why is this village so abnormal? At this moment, a few burly men walked over from the village. They looked like proper burly men. Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. Communicating with men was definitely better than communicating with these shrews. This village was built by me, and this road was opened by me. If you want to pass through this village, you have to pay the toll. Boom! 5 or 6 burly men with ferocious faces surrounded Yi Qinghan tightly. Crack! Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fist. He was so angry that he almost went berserk. What kind of village is this? Why is there no reason at all? I'm only here to look for someone. If you can tell me his whereabouts, we can discuss the money. Yi Qinghan said coldly. Who are you looking for? How much money are you giving? Take out the money first. The leader of the burly men said coldly, his voice like a bell. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out a large amount of shining faith money. He said in a deep voice, the young man who recently entered your village seems to be a little older than me. He's injured. As long as you tell me his whereabouts, these 100,000 strands of money are yours. Whoosh! The valiant woman suddenly sped up and snatched the money from Yi Qinghan's hands. She pointed to a house in the east of the village and said, that bastard is there. You can go find him. You stinking woman, why did you betray my customer? One of the women roared. For the 100,000 strands of money. Idiot! The valiant woman roared back. Yi Qinghan coldly glanced at the crowd. He really didn't want to talk to this group of demon-like villagers. He walked directly to the east of the village. Whoosh! Buzz! Yi Qinghan took out the Rui bell and quickly approached. His divine sense covered the courtyard and found Xia Zhilong's aura. Boom! Yi Qinghan exploded. The Rui bell in his hand enlarged infinitely. It fell from the sky and enveloped the entire courtyard. Bang! The Rui bell smashed into the ground and shattered the courtyard. Yi Qinghan's aura suddenly rose. His aura soared into the sky and alarmed the entire village. The dozen or so burly men and shrews were dumbfounded. They didn't expect the target of their extortion to be so powerful. It's over. My customer is dead. My courtyard. I lost a lot of money. The woman from before roared in pain. Everyone thought that Xia Zhilong had been suppressed, but Yi Qinghan quickly put away the Rui bell. He transformed into a bolt of lightning and punched through the void, forcing Xia Zhilong out of the alternate space. Crown Prince, why are you hiding? Could it be that the Crown Prince of the Holy Empire, the #1 expert of the younger generation, is afraid of a nobody like me? Yi Qinghan flipped his hand and put away the Rui bell. He coldly looked at Xia Zhilong, who was floating in the sky not far away. When the two dragons met, the mountains would crumble and the earth would split. The two of them faced each other with equal harshness. Their eyes were filled with thick killing intent. Whoosh! Xia Zhilong waved his hand, and the 9 dragons fan appeared in his hand. He stared at Yi Qinghan and said in a muffled voice, Xian Xiu actually didn't kill you. Ha, kill me. He wants to, but unfortunately, he was crippled by me. I also killed one of your Bloodstrike guards. What a pity. I've disappointed you. Yi Qinghan laughed maniacally. Xia Zhilong took a deep breath and said indifferently, Since he can't kill you, I'll do it myself. Do you think that you can threaten me just because I'm heavily injured? Dream on. Yi Qinghan snorted. Precious light flowed around his body, and his aura suppressed the heavens. He coldly asked, Xia Zhilong, stop pretending. You're an arrow at the end of its flight. You might be able to deal with others, but do you think you can threaten me? Tell me where senior sister Fan Yin is. I'll just beat you up. I definitely won't kill you. Arrogant, ignorant child, I'll let you see a true legendary expert today. Whoosh! The moment the 9 dragons fan appeared, 9 dragons intertwined and swooped down. They were like real dragons, suppressing everything within a 1,000-mile radius. The villagers of Evil Spirit Village were alarmed and rushed out. Damn, who are these 2 people? They're so strong. They're even stronger than the village chief, right? They're definitely not as strong as the village chief, but it seems like the injured man is stronger. The villagers of Evil Spirit Village discussed in shock. Boom! At that moment, Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong had already clashed. The Rui bell sealed the heavens and cracked the earth, suppressing the long dragon. Roar, roar! The divine dragon roared, shattering the heavenly river. Yi Qinghan pulled out a flame and punched at Xia Zhilong's body. Chapter 1975. Roar! Boom! Yi Qinghan almost turned into a fire dragon. His fist shattered mountains and rivers as he charged toward Xia Zhilong. Die! Whoosh! A row of tiny daggers appeared at the top of the 9 dragon fan. They were extremely sharp. Xia Zhilong waved the 9 dragon fan and drew an arc in the sky. Stars, sun, and moon appeared at the same time. Mountains and rivers rumbled as strange phenomena appeared. Starlight and moonlight shone on the ground, enveloping the entire evil ghost village. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, in a split second, Xia Zhilong actually split into 9. Each doppelganger was performing a different move. It was as if he only had 9 doppelgangers. The ultimate profound of the 9 changes of the stars, star fall. Boom! The 9 doppelgangers sped through the air and surrounded Yi Qinghan. The sun and moon appeared at the same time in the sky. It was extremely dazzling, making it difficult to tell where Xia Zhilong's real body was. He's the Holy Empire's crown prince, Xia Zhilong. He's actually the Holy Empire's crown prince. Damn, I missed the opportunity. If I had joined him earlier, perhaps I could have become an existence second only to one person. The people of Evil Ghost Village roared in shock. Which sacred ground's true disciple is that young man fighting against him? What a powerful aura! Either way, it's not simple. How much ransom do you think we can get if we kidnap both of them? A few experts who were not afraid of getting into trouble discussed excitedly. Their eyes were filled with excitement. However, Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong were already fighting each other. They did not care about the thoughts of those ant-like existences outside. Both of them were in a frenzy. Every attack contained endless power. Half of the village was razed to the ground. The two of them fought to the top of the sky. Billions of stars shone. Xia Zhilong's divine body was as dazzling as the 9 doppelgangers merged into one. It was like a dazzling sun as it smashed down with its palm. Starfall. The ultimate profound of the 9 changes of the stars. Although it was not his strongest move, it was definitely enough to destroy a legendary disciple. Whoosh! 5 fingers fell from the sky and pressed Yi Qinghan in the center. The energy that was enough to shatter an upper-level cultivator did not affect Yi Qinghan. Ho! Yi Qinghan's divine robe was almost torn apart. He used the 10 words of the Taiji Immortal Canon to split the air into 2 sides, forming a huge vortex to absorb the energy emitted by Xia Zhilong. The vortex grew larger and larger, forming a majestic yin-yang 8 trigrams formation. His identity was on the verge of being revealed. He's a member of the Transcending Heaven Church. Isn't the relationship between these 2 holy lands very good? Why would there be a fight to the death between true disciples? A knowledgeable man recognized Yi Qinghan's cultivation method and asked in surprise, "I'm going to be rich. When both sides are injured, I'll capture them and ask for a ransom. I'm sure I'll be able to earn a lot." A wretched middle-aged man rubbed his hands and drooled, as if Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong were delicious cake. Boom, boom, boom. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The shock waves from their attacks swept out in all directions, uprooting the entire house. Boom, boom, boom. The giant palm was like a falling star. The shock waves spread out in all directions. Anyone within the attack range couldn't escape from the shackles of the shock waves and had to take it head-on. This was the essence of profound. The great Tao is simple. Yin and Yang are boundless. Taiji manifests the 8 trigrams, and its power can reach the heavens. Yi Qinghan's hands moved several times faster. His legs were planted on the ground, and he borrowed the power of heaven and earth to gather it in his body. His aura was getting stronger and stronger. His palms pushed the Taiji 8 trigrams seal and attacked Xia Zhilong's starfall. The 2 sides clashed head-on, and the killing intent produced shocked the people of the evil ghost village. Boom, whoosh, the entire evil ghost village was razed to the ground, and the ground split open into an unfathomable chasm. The shock waves from the 2 broke through the void and rushed out in all directions. In an instant, they rushed out 1,000 meters and affected the people of the evil ghost village. Many sector lords and young people were heavily injured. They coughed out blood and flew out 1,000 meters. They crashed into the mountain and fainted on the spot. The lower realm experts were too confident and blocked at the front. They were heavily injured and suffered the most losses. A few experts were directly shattered into dust and died. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. After the powerful collision, Yi Qinghan's body trembled. The bones in his hands were broken, and he was continuously pushed back. The footprints under his feet were clearly visible. Die. Xia Zhilong angrily attacked. His body exploded again, and his palm sent Yi Qinghan flying 1,000 meters away. His divine robe was shattered, and only the protective armor formed by the Rui Bell still protected his golden body. However, his physical body was already abnormal, so after receiving such a terrifying attack, he only felt his blood and qi churn. It was not a big deal. Cough, cough. Yi Qinghan clutched his chest, and a trace of unwillingness flashed in his eyes. He did not expect Xia Zhilong to be able to push him back even when he was heavily injured. Xia Zhilong originally wanted to take advantage of the situation to kill Yi Qinghan. However, when he used his divine power again, his blood and qi churned, and he almost vomited blood. His eyes were as red as blood as he stared at Yi Qinghan. Trash will always be trash. You can't even withstand half of my strength, and you dare to challenge this Emperor's Majesty? Xia Zhilong pretended to be strong and said coldly. Yi Qinghan snorted, brushed the dust off his body, and stepped in front of Xia Zhilong. He smiled evilly and said, Xia Zhilong, you're just an arrow at the end of its flight. Don't think I don't know that you're injured. If you could still fight, you would have killed me long ago. However, I might as well tell you that the 2 missions carried out by your blood strike guards were not completed. You didn't take away the immortal medicine, and the Guangzong has returned to the Guangzong manner. Even if you were injured, you would still be injured. It's just an eternal immortal pill. Even if this emperor did not want the immortal pill, he could still become an eternal sovereign. He could still sweep away the world's overlords. But you, even if I'm seriously injured, would you dare to kill me? Xia Zhilong sneered and mocked. Yi Qinghan shrugged and replied, Indeed, I wouldn't dare to kill you, but beating you up wouldn't be a problem. Unless you're like trash and use the power of the Holy Empire to take revenge on my Guangzong. However, you don't look like trash. No need to provoke me. I don't need the power of the Holy Empire to kill you and Guangzong, Xia Zhilong said coldly. Then let's wait and see. In less than 10,000 years, I will definitely defeat you. Yi Qinghan suddenly exploded and threw a punch at Xia Zhilong. His aura was like a rainbow, and his punch was enough to shake mountains and rivers. Boom! Bang! Xia Zhilong waved his big hand and counterattacked. The two of them separated as soon as they collided, and both of them retreated hundreds of steps. Xia Zhilong's face was pale and he coughed up blood. His injuries had worsened. Yi Qinghan didn't wait for Xia Zhilong to react. He turned and left, leaving the evil ghost village in a flash. Xia Zhilong, our battle has just begun. Take your time. You're just my stepping stone. A deep and resounding voice reverberated for a long time within 10 miles of the defensive perimeter. Xia Zhilong's face was gloomy as he stared in the direction Yi Qinghan had left. He clenched his iron fists, and killing intent radiated from him. Chapter 1976. Yi Qinghan left, but the villagers of Evil Spirit Village glared at Xia Zhilong angrily. If they weren't afraid of his strength, they would have tied him up long ago. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, you should give us an explanation for what you did to our village, right? A dignified elder stepped out of the crowd. He had a powerful aura and was probably comparable to Yi Qinghan's peak strength. He was definitely an expert of the upper realm. Xia Zhilong coldly glanced at the elder and said in a muffled voice, I'll compensate you tenfold. But you'll have to wait for a while. The villagers of Evil Spirit Village were famous for being evil, but they didn't dare to be evil at this moment. Everyone knew Xia Zhilong's temper. He would take revenge for the smallest grievance. If they really angered him, he could slaughter the entire village. At most, he would become enemies with the battle tribe. The village chief took a deep breath and said in a low voice, We commoners don't dare to take too much of the crown prince's wealth. We'll just compensate you in full. I'll give you a pill. Although it can't heal all your injuries, it can at least heal about 30% of them. The villagers of Evil Spirit Village lowered themselves and didn't ask for Xia Zhilong's gratitude. They only asked that he not take his anger out on them. The corners of Xia Zhilong's mouth curled up. His evil smile made one's hair stand on end, but he didn't take the pill. Instead, he looked toward the southeast. A few figures were speeding away, turning into streaks of flame. Half an hour later, Xian Xiu and the others arrived. They were exhausted and had used up all their divine power. Your Highness, please punish us for being late to the rescue. Xian Xiu and the 3 blood-robed guards knelt on one knee and said in a low voice. Xia Zhilong's face was gloomy as he stared at Xian Xiu and asked coldly, Why is Yi Qinghan still alive? He's just a puny middle realm cultivator. He's only at the 10-character formula and shadowless cloud manipulation realm. Why can't you kill him with so many of you? Your subordinate deserves to die. Yi Qinghan's strength exceeded this old servant's expectations. I underestimated him too much. This is all my fault. Your Highness, please punish me. Xian Xiu was already kneeling on the ground, not daring to say anything else. Then why did the people from the Kuang sect return alive? Give me a reasonable explanation. Xia Zhilong asked coldly. Your subordinate knows that Yi Qinghan is the spiritual pillar of the insane sect. Once Yi Qinghan dies, the insane sect's will. Yi Qinghan. Therefore, I mobilized all the upper-level realm experts to surround ye. Yes. Insane S took. And took advantage, S and S so SS. Ses and comma. V. S. S's S's S. S. Xia Jilong was so angry that his face turned pale. After a long time, he calmed down. He asked for the storage rings of Xian Xiu and the other blood-robed guards. He took out 1,000,000 yuan and handed it to the evil Ghost Village's village chief. Go back and bring that girl back to the imperial city. If you can't do this, then kill yourselves. As for Yi Qinghan, I'll do it myself, Xia Jilong said coldly. Xia Jilong was a man of his word. No one dared to refute him, not even Xian Xiu. Furthermore, Xia Jilong was in a fit of anger. He didn't dare to say anything and quickly left. Yi Qinghan was moving through the mountains and rivers, flying through the air. He was getting faster and faster, and he was extremely anxious. If Xia Jilong had suffered such heavy injuries, one could imagine Fan Yin's injuries. If he didn't find her in time, something big would definitely happen. However, there was still good news. Countless flying spirit beasts flew in the northwest direction and finally found Fan Yin's whereabouts. A powerful flying spirit beast flew over. After communicating with the divine bird quickly said, "She's at the northwest Wolf Pass. She's not far from here. She'll arrive in 3 days at most." Yi Qinghan didn't say anything else. He flew northwest with the flying spirit beast. 2 days later, Yi Qinghan appeared in a small town, Wolf Pass Town. The town walls were piled up with stones. Calling it a town was a bit of an exaggeration. At most, it was just a large tribe in dire straits. Yi Qinghan only knew that Fan Yin had entered Wolf Pass Town, but he didn't know her exact location. He could only search for her in the inns. However, there was only one large inn in the entire town, so he went straight to the Northwest Wolf Pass restaurant. Inside the restaurant, Fan Yin and the little beggar sat together. Both of them looked very serious, especially Fan Yin. Her face didn't have any color at all. Her blood was drained, and she looked like she was about to die. The most important thing was that the little beggar had used up all his money. It seemed like he was about to fail in his gamble. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. Fan Yin didn't dare to reveal her identity. Even if she did, who would believe her without any proof? Even if they believed her, there was no guarantee that no one would be bold enough to rob her of her money or her body. "You don't have any money left?" Fan Yin asked in a deep voice. The little beggar shook his head and said softly, "I only had 3,000 strands of money in total. I've used it all up these days." Cough, cough, cough. Fan Yin coughed lightly a few times. She was a lot more confused. At this moment, the waiter walked over and said helplessly, "Fairy, your money is only enough until noon today. If you don't have any more money, you'll have to leave the inn." Fan Yin thought for a moment and asked softly, "Can you discuss with your boss to let me stay for a few more days? I'll definitely pay you back 100-fold. The rule of Wolf Pass is that no credit is allowed. No one is an exception. Also, I have to remind you that those Northwest Wolves are still watching outside. If you leave, I'm afraid they'll take advantage of you." The waiter whispered in her ear. When the little beggar looked at Fan Yin again, there was hatred in his eyes. However, it was hidden very well. He then lowered his head. Fan Yin didn't care about the little beggar's attitude. She only wanted to survive. However, she had no money, no pills, and the poor spiritual energy in the Northwest. There was really no way for her to recover her energy. Not only did she not get better these few days, her condition had worsened. At this moment, Yi Qinghan appeared behind her and gently held her waist. He smiled wickedly and said, "Beauty, it's so dangerous to be alone outside. Why don't I protect you? I can even give you some pills. How about it?" Fan Yin's body tensed up. She jumped in fright and almost went berserk. When she turned around and saw Yi Qinghan, she was overjoyed. The temperament of a little girl spontaneously arose. "You bastard! I'm about to die and you're still joking." Fan Yin gently hammered Yi Qinghan's chest. As if she had found someone to rely on, her soul completely relaxed. Her tired soul was no longer tense. "I'm here. No matter who dies, I won't let a beautiful senior sister die. Don't worry," Yi Qinghan whispered to the beautiful Fan Yin. "I need to rest and pills. Help me pay for my room and carry me upstairs." Fan Yin said tiredly. "Roger that. Don't talk about needing these things. Even if you need my body, I'll give it to you without hesitation. Do you need me to replenish your yin?" Yi Qinghan carried Fan Yin with a lascivious smile on his face. "Stinking brat, are you itching for a beating?" At this moment, Fan Yin wasn't angry at all. Instead, she felt very happy. This bastard had appeared at the critical moment. Otherwise, she wouldn't even know how she died. Yi Qinghan carried Fan Yin and left the table, leaving the little beggar looking at Yi Qinghan with hatred. It was as if Yi Qinghan had ruined his big plan. Chapter 1977. Yi Qinghan paid for 3 days of accommodation, then carried Fan Yin upstairs and took out a few of the best sacred medicines. "Come, senior sister, take these first. I will guard you and heal your injuries first," Yi Qinghan said gently. With Yi Qinghan by her side, Fan Yin did not have to think too much. She sat on the bed and adjusted the sacred medicine's medicinal properties to heal her body, which was about to collapse. Her recovery speed was many times faster than before. Fan Yin continued until dawn, when she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Her injuries were at least 40% healed, and she had enough ability to protect herself. Fan Yin groaned softly, her body went limp, and she did not have any strength left. Once her highly tensed body and soul relaxed, it was as if they had been hollowed out. She could only lie down, not even willing to breathe. "Go prepare some hot water for me. I want to wash up," Fan Yin said softly. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and nodded. He immediately got up and went downstairs. He fetched a large bucket of hot water and poured it all into the bathtub. He also put a large amount of spiritual medicine and spiritual grass in the bathtub, and the bathtub was filled with spiritual qi. "Senior sister, I will guard the door for you," Yi Qinghan said softly. "No need. Use your god power to help me clear the blood clots and impurities in my body. I don't have any strength left now. Also, help me massage my shoulders," Fan Yin said. Yi Qinghan's eyes widened, and he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He asked seriously, "Senior sister, are you sure you want me to clear the blood clots in your body while you are bathing? If you dare to have any dirty thoughts, I will cut off your position as second master," Fan Yin reprimanded angrily. Yi Qinghan could not help but tighten his thighs. He laughed and stopped teasing this thorny rose. Fan Yin saw that Yi Qinghan did not respond, and could not help but scold. "Why are you still not turning around? Do you want to die?" Yi Qinghan smiled and quickly turned his head. Fan Yin quickly took off her coat. Her beautiful body was wrapped in a layer of gauze. She gritted her teeth and endured the fatigue. She quickly entered the bathtub. Her entire body was soaked in the water, covered by the spirit herbs and spirit herbs. Only her beautiful face could be seen. Once she entered the bathtub, she collapsed and leaned against the side of the bathtub, exhaling a mouthful of turbid air. "Comfortable. It's simply more comfortable than when I advanced a major realm," Fan Yin sighed softly. Yi Qinghan snickered and pulled a chair over. He leaned over the bathtub and stared at Fan Yin. He clicked his tongue and said, "Senior sister, has any man ever praised you for being a perfect woman?" Fan Yin rolled her eyes and said, "Do I need a man to praise me?" "There's really no need for that," Yi Qinghan said with a smile. Fan Yin leaned against the bathtub. Only then did her soul and body truly relax. She closed her eyes and did not care that Yi Qinghan was sizing her up. She suddenly opened her eyes and asked, "Oh right, where's that little beggar? It's all thanks to him. If not for him, I might have capsized this big ship." Yi Qinghan naturally knew about the little beggar. Especially the way he looked at Fanning and the way he looked at Yi Qinghan after he appeared, it was filled with resentment and displeasure. "That little beggar, I arranged for him to stay in the room next door. However, there's something wrong with this person. You might not have noticed, but he already has evil intentions towards you," Yi Qinghan said truthfully. "It's fine. He saved my life once. When I recover, I'll either give him a small city or $1 million to make a living for himself." Fanning sighed. If not for his 3,000 strands of money, she would not have been able to live. If she spent his savings without any return, then anyone would have evil intentions. Yi Qinghan shrugged and replied, "Senior sister, you can decide. However, I have to remind you, don't get bitten by a venomous snake. He's a venomous snake waiting to strike." Fanning looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise and asked, "Why do you say that? He's not a bad person. Perhaps it's because he's been a beggar for a long time and has been oppressed by others. Or perhaps it's because he's a little xenophobic." Yi Qinghan smiled and said indifferently, "I've been roaming the Jianghu for a long time and have seen many people like him. He's not a good person and will definitely bring you big trouble in the future." "I don't think so, but I'll be on my guard." Fanning did not say anything else. Soaking in the spiritual liquid, her body was covered in sweat. The clotted blood in her body was also slowly dispersing. Her injuries were about 10% better, but she still did not have much strength. Yi Qinghan did not say anything else. He gently stood up and helped Fanning clean up her injuries. Using more and more strength, a wisp of wood origin energy flowed from his palm to Fanning's body, helping to heal her injuries and dispel the clotted blood. Yi Qinghan calmed his heart and looked straight ahead. Such a woman was too exquisite. When he touched her shoulder, it was as if he had been electrocuted. His entire arm felt weak. Fanning groaned. Her body gradually reacted. A current flowed from her dantian, almost causing her to lose control. Fanning immediately shook her head and secretly cried out, "Damn it, why do I have such a reaction?" Yi Qinghan smiled. Naturally, he could feel Fanning's reaction, but he did not point it out. "Senior sister, did you gain anything from your battle with Xia Jilong?" Yi Qinghan changed the topic and asked calmly. "That idiot actually wanted to kill me. It seems like he's determined to shed all pretense of cordiality. However, he did help me in this battle. After I cultivate for 3 to 5 years, my cultivation might increase by more than 30%. Although I was seriously injured, he didn't have it easy either. We were on par." Fanning coldly snorted. Yi Qinghan laughed mockingly. "Senior sister, stop bragging. When I came to find you, I bumped into Xia Jilong and fought with him. He probably still has 40% of his cultivation left, but you don't even have the ability to protect yourself. There's still a gap between us. However, after fighting with me, his injuries worsened. Even with the help of pills, he'll probably need 3 to 5 years to recover." Fanning's bragging was exposed. She angrily snorted and ignored Yi Qinghan. "Senior sister, don't be angry. Actually, I'm ashamed that you can beat Xia Jilong to such a state. He can defeat me with only 40% of his strength. You can see his strength." Yi Qinghan smiled flatteringly. Fanning flew into a rage out of humiliation. With a backhand palm, she sent Yi Qinghan flying out of the room. Yi Qinghan stood awkwardly outside the door. He shook his head and sighed, "You can't offend a woman. The ancients didn't deceive me." A modified version. Chapter 1978. Yi Qinghan looked at Fanning's angry expression and couldn't help but grin. He also didn't want to be alone with Fanning in the room. After all, Fanning's injuries weren't light and it wasn't suitable for him to tease her. However, how could he not feel anything when standing next to her? Thus, he found an excuse to escape. "Senior sister, you rest for a while. I'll help you take a look at that little beggar," Yi Qinghan said with a smile. Creak. Yi Qinghan quickly closed the door and escaped without caring if Fan Yin agreed or not. "Be polite to him. After all, he saved my life," Fan Yin called out in a low voice. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly as he stepped into the inn in the front yard alone. At this moment, Lu Fengxian was sitting alone by the window, eating a simple meal. The sinister look in his eyes was self-evident. He had finally found a chance to get close to a peerless beauty from a large faction. However, before he could express his goodwill or get close to this phoenix, he was stopped by Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan had ruined his plans. How could he be happy? At this moment, Yi Qinghan walked over and sat down. He looked at Lu Fengxian and said calmly, "Little brother, thank you for saving my senior sister's life. I'll give you 100,000 strands of money as repayment for your kindness. However, you won't get close to my senior sister in the future. How about it?" Lu Fengxian's eyes flashed when he heard this. Seeing Yi Qinghan take the initiative to bribe him with money, he thought that Yi Qinghan saw him as a rival. He even fantasized about becoming a phoenix from a chicken and replacing Yi Qinghan's position. Thus, how could he be interested in 100,000 strands of money? To become Fan Yin's man, 10 million strands of money was nothing. "I have nothing to do with you. Me saving Senior Fan Yin is a matter between Senior Fan Yin and me. Thus, I don't want your money," Lu Fengxian said quietly. Yi Qinghan looked at Lu Fengxian's expression and knew that he wanted to rely on Fan Yin. Yi Qinghan bluntly reminded him, "Ha ha, little brother, there aren't so many good things in this world. Senior sister only wanted to repay a debt of gratitude, but you want to take the entire pot away. Isn't that a little inappropriate?" Lu Fengxian said in a neutral tone, "Esteemed lord, don't measure the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. I'm just a beggar, how would I dare to claim connections with Lord Fan Yin? I just want to follow Lord Fan Yin. I'm not like some greedy people who like to steal everything." Yi Qinghan smiled. He naturally knew that Lu Fengxian was talking about him, but Lu Fengxian was right. He really wanted to wipe out the entire pot. 1 million strands of money. As long as you nod, I'll give it to you at any time. Yi Qinghan didn't want to say too much. He just didn't want this guy to be fattened up by Fan Yin and bite her back. Lu Fengxian saw that Yi Qinghan wanted to drive him away, so he couldn't leave. If he let go of a big tree on the leaderboard, then he would be too stupid. If he took a gamble, maybe he could become a person above others. Lu Fengxian hesitated for a moment, then said firmly, "Many thanks to esteemed lord for thinking so highly of me. I won't accept a reward if I don't deserve it. You should keep your money well. Lowly people don't deserve to have so much money." "Do you know who senior sister and I are?" Yi Qinghan frowned. This guy was too greedy. He didn't even put 1 million strands of money in his eyes. Was he an ordinary beggar? Lu Fengxian shook his head and lightly said, "I'm following Lord Fan Yin, not her identity. I don't care who she is, I want to follow her. I ask esteemed lord not to make things difficult for a little beggar." Yi Qinghan's lips curled up into a cold smile. If Lu Fengxian knew about Fan Yin and his identity, then it would be reasonable for him to give up 1 million strands of money. However, he didn't know. This only meant that Lu Fengxian's ambition wasn't in money, but in the pursuit of the Tao. If he had a righteous heart, then Yi Qinghan naturally wouldn't drive him away. However, Lu Fengxian's heart was clearly not righteous. "Since that's the case, I won't force you. You're on your own," Yi Qinghan calmly said. Lu Fengxian lowered his head and continued eating his meal. He no longer paid any attention to Yi Qinghan. However, deep down, he already hated this man who made him feel ashamed of his own inferiority. Yi Qinghan was worthy of the envy, jealousy, and hatred of many men. This was especially true for Lu Fengxian. He had talent and good looks, but he lacked Yi Qinghan's luck. In order to transcend, Lu Fengxian would definitely abandon any bottom line and betray them at any time. Yi Qinghan walked out and looked at the small city. He felt that this city was somewhat unusual. The short city wall was made of a pile of stones. There were mountains and rivers in the surrounding area, but there was no sign of human habitation. Only this small town had been passed down here for so many years. If it didn't have any foundation, it would have been devoured by the wild beasts long ago. Yi Qinghan walked around the small town for a long time, but he didn't find any strange people or things. After pondering for a long time, he stopped thinking about it. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan left the small town and looked at the desolate land. He wanted to study it carefully, but he didn't dare to go too far. This was because Fan Yin's injuries hadn't fully recovered. If Xia Zhilong came back, he would regret it. However, Xia Zhilong wasn't in the mood to come back and settle the score with Fan Yin. He had first fought with Fan Yin and was seriously injured. Then, he fought with Yi Qinghan and was even more seriously injured. Now, he had fled back. In the imperial city, Xia Zhilong's face was gloomy. His malicious eyes were filled with ice. He wanted to kill both Fan Yin and Yi Qinghan. Mystic! Xia Zhilong shouted coldly. Here. Mystic immediately bowed and replied. Bring a group of people and assassinate a group of insane sex people. I want to see how many brothers this Yi Qinghan has. Xia Zhilong said coldly. Xian Xiu was shocked. He was indeed strong, and if he brought a group of people with him, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill the crazed manor. But now, the crazed manor was in the heaven-suppressing palace. If they wanted to cross the Sword Dao sacred ground, they would have to offend the two sacred grounds. Your Highness, this is too far away. By the time we arrive, the news would have already reached insane sect's ears. By then, they would have set up a trap for us. We won't be able to achieve much, and we might even suffer great losses. Mystic reminded respectfully. Xia Zhilong was so angry that he lost his mind. Attacking insane sect from a long distance was unrealistic. In the end, after thinking for a long time, he had no choice but to give up. This picture is blocked. I changed it completely. Chapter 1979. Xia Zhilong gave up on the idea of attacking Kuang Manor, and Kuang Manor escaped a calamity. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was still in Longguan town. On this day, Yi Qinghan was still being used by Fan Yin to help her heal her old wounds. Fan Yin under the bath was unbearable. Yi Qinghan was also a man. Yi Qinghan's fingers wandered, thinking that he was going to dominate her tonight. Even Fan Yin could not bear it. Stop. Little bastard, I really can't do it today. I'm not ready yet. Fan Yin was unusually firm, like a basin of ice water poured on Yi Qinghan's head, waking him up slightly. Yi Qinghan looked at the beautiful Fan Yin. If it had been anyone else, he would have long since lost his patience and forced her to abdicate. However, Fan Yin was different. Furthermore, he didn't want to force her, so the strength in his hands slowly decreased. Senior sister, you have feelings and I like you too. Why can't I? Are you afraid that I won't have as high achievements as you in the future? Yi Qinghan asked faintly. Fan Yin shook her head and quickly explained, No, I never thought that a man would really walk together with me. Today's reaction is beyond my imagination. Stop first, lie down, and let's chat. At least let me be prepared. Yi Qinghan was helpless and had no choice but to endure. Fan Yin gently pushed Yi Qinghan away from her body and pressed him under her arm. She turned her body slightly to face Yi Qinghan. Her face was flushed red, and her jade hand held little Yi Qinghan. The emotions in her eyes could not be faked. She was indeed moved by Yi Qinghan. At least she had a reaction. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin looked at each other. The room was filled with spring, and it was hard for them to control themselves. You don't understand me, and I don't want to change myself now. Calm down first, Fanine advised softly. Her jade hand gently kneaded little Yi Qinghan, hoping that his pain would be relieved. Yi Qinghan's breathing gradually calmed down. He hugged Fanine and said gently, "Tell me, I will understand you. If you don't want to change yourself, then don't change." Fanine lay in Yi Qinghan's arms and thought for a long time before saying, "I was born in a small town. I vaguely remember that when I was 3 years old, my parents went to the mountains for an adventure in order to survive. They never came back. There was only an old man at home. 1 year after my parents left, he suddenly grew old and I was the only one left at home. At that time, I was only 4 years old and didn't know how to protect the house. Everything was taken away by my relatives and I was chased out. From then on, I wandered in the slums, fighting with other children for food. For a bite of food, I fought with boys who were much older than me." Hiss, Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. He didn't know that Fanine had such a past. No wonder she was so uninterested in men, but was interested in beautiful women. Hearing this, Yi Qinghan hugged Fanine tightly and didn't do anything else. "I started fighting with the boys. Since I was 4 years old, I fought with those poor boys for food. Because I was weak and I was a girl, I didn't have much strength. In order to survive, I had to use all my strength. Like this, I fought until I was 8 years old. When I was 8 years old, my master accidentally discovered that I actually knew how to use skillful strength. Although I had never practiced it before, the bare-handed teenage boys were no match for me. So he taught me a few 10-character formulas from the Immortal Codex. He discovered that I was a genius in cultivating the Immortal Codex, and my fate was changed. But those 4 years of fighting, every bit of it was engraved in my heart. Although it was poor, I was free and unrestrained, without any burden. That's why I have such an unruly personality. This personality is what made me who I am. I never felt that I needed a man, but yesterday your appearance made me feel a special throbbing. I felt that I was a woman." When Yi Qinghan heard this, he hugged Fanine even tighter and said softly, "You are a woman and a woman of the highest quality. But I'm afraid of this feeling. I hate this feeling. If I need a man, I'll become a weak little woman. I feel that my previous self has died. I don't like that feeling. What I experienced back then was the motivation for me to fight. I won't lose to anyone in this life. Even if it's Xia Jilong, I dare to beat him until he runs away. I don't want this me to die," Fanine said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan sighed and thought to himself, "Sure enough, to form such a character, it must have something to do with a dark childhood. But I'm deeply infatuated with the feeling of being protected, the feeling of being hugged." Fanine slowly turned around, her back facing Yi Qinghan. Her eyes were shining with tears. Yi Qinghan was stunned for a moment. He hugged Fanine from behind, almost squeezing her into his body. It was only now that he truly understood Fanine. She was strong, but also exceptionally weak. Yi Qinghan held onto Fanine tightly. His large hands wrapped around her chest, and his large arms wrapped around Fanine's body. Fanine didn't stop him. Instead, she shifted her body and enjoyed this warmth. Yi Qinghan gradually had a reaction. Against her sacred place that no one was allowed to approach, he almost reached into her sacred place. However, Yi Qinghan held back. "You can hug me, but don't go in. I don't want to change myself yet. I don't want to kill my past self," Fanine said softly. Yi Qinghan replied softly, silently hugging the beauty in his arms. Changing a person required a long time, and it couldn't be forced. Otherwise, it would backfire. As the saying goes, haste makes waste. Yi Qinghan had plenty of patience. Most importantly, he didn't want to anger Fanine and hurt her. Time flew by and the sky brightened. However, Fanine's breathing in his arms became calm, as if she had fallen asleep. Yi Qinghan didn't disturb her, and just like that, he fell asleep with her in his arms. After a long period of chasing and killing, His soul was exceptionally tired, and he fell into a deep sleep. It wasn't until noon that Yi Qinghan suddenly felt his manhood being sucked in, unconsciously sliding into her beautiful sacred place. Fan Yin suddenly woke up, and Yi Qinghan immediately woke up. He quickly pulled it out and patted his chest with his large hand, comforting the sleeping beauty. "Stinking brat, at least you have a conscience," Fan Yin reprimanded shyly. "Because I don't want to make my beautiful senior sister cry." Yi Qinghan smiled gently. It was a very sincere smile, without a hint of lust. "Stop talking nonsense, get up," Fan Yin reprimanded. "No, I can't bear to get up. The next time I want to hug senior sister to sleep, I don't know how long I'll have to wait." Yi Qinghan shamelessly hugged Fan Yin, and used some strength in his large hands. Fan Yin snorted, and her face turned red. She kicked back with her long legs, but it was caught by Yi Qinghan. The two fooled around for a while, and wasted more than 2 hours, before they slowly got up from the bed. The two walked out of the room with radiant faces, and found the little beggar squatting at the door with a look of dissatisfaction. The little beggar saw that Fan Yin's complexion was much better than yesterday, and knew that her cultivation had recovered. She wasn't someone he could covet. The strange look in his eyes disappeared, and he smiled. "Esteemed lord, how are you? That's great." Fan Yin smiled and said, "Much better. It's all thanks to you these past few days. Tell sister, do you want a small town or 1,000,000 faith coins?" "This little one wants to follow esteemed lord, and be at your beck and call." The little beggar's eyes flashed, and he was exceptionally smart. He glanced at Yi Qinghan, and without hesitation, gave up the money that he could never earn in his lifetime, and chose to be a servant, and be at Fan Yin's beck and call. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but look deeply at the little beggar. It seemed that this guy was determined to follow Fan Yin. Chapter 1980. The little beggar looked expectantly at Fan Yin. Although he didn't know her identity, he could guess that Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin's identities weren't simple. Fan Yin didn't expect the little beggar to be so smart. He didn't want the town and millions of gold, but chose to be her servant and follow her. What she didn't know was that Lu Fengxian had already rejected Yi Qinghan's suggestion. Lu Fengxian didn't dare to offend Yi Qinghan too much. Hence, he didn't mention that Yi Qinghan had sought him out. "If he knew who I was, it wouldn't be strange for him to choose to be my follower." However, he didn't know who I was, yet he chose to give up the wealth he had been searching for his entire life to become my servant. "I admire his intelligence and ambition," Fan Yin murmured to himself and then looked at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan didn't nod. He glanced at Lu Fengxian and said plainly, "Senior sister, you decide." Fan Yin didn't like being followed by others. What's more, the little beggar's strength was too weak. He was only a low-level sector lord. It was hard for him to take responsibility. She said, "Lu Fengxian, I'm indeed grateful for your care these few days. You saved my life. However, your strength is too weak. You can't keep up with my pace. I advise you to choose one of the 2 excellent conditions I've given you. Put on." The little beggar Lu Fengxian actually knelt down in front of Fan Yin and said sincerely, "Esteemed one, I don't ask for wealth. I just want to follow you. Even if it's just serving tea or being a servant in your residence, I'm satisfied. Also, my cultivation is too weak. You've given me so much money and town. I can't protect them. I might even lose my life. Please, on account of my sincerity, save me." Yi Qinghan saw that Fan Yin couldn't bear to refuse and said, "Little brother, on account of you saving senior sister, I'll show you a path. Senior sister and I will recommend you to join a strong sect. How about it?" The little beggar hated Yi Qinghan in his heart. However, he didn't dare to follow Fan Yin. He quickly kowtowed and said gratefully, "Thank you, esteemed ones. If I can join your sect, even if I'm just an outer disciple, I'll definitely repay you with my life." Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin looked at each other. They were even more certain that this little beggar's future was limitless. If he was given a chance, he would definitely soar to the sky. However, this person's personality was vengeful. It was unknown whether he would repay their kindness or not. Fanine's temper finally softened. She nodded and said, "Since that's the case, then follow us. When we return to the sacred land, I'll make arrangements for you. At such a young age, you're already a sector lord. You've relied on yourself to have such achievements. I'm sure your talent isn't bad. It shouldn't be a problem for you to become a disciple of a subordinate sect of the sacred land." The sky-reaching church controlled all the territories in the north of the Holy Empire. It occupied an area of hundreds of millions of miles. There were countless subordinate sects and clans in the territory. Many of them were very strong and didn't lose to the strong sections. It should be enough to accept someone with talent like Lu Fengxian. Lu Fengxian constantly kowtowed and thanked. He looked very sincere and grateful. However, he wasn't satisfied. He secretly roared, "I saved your life, but I can only join a subordinate sect of your sect. You're looking down on me, Lu Fengxian. One day, I'll definitely surpass the two of you and replace your positions." A strand of resentment leaked out. Although Lu Fengxian hid it well, Yi Qinghan had seen all kinds of people. He saw through the clues with a glance. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. However, for Fanine's sake, he didn't make a move. He didn't want Fanine to be branded as someone who repaid kindness with enmity. "Get up, go down and eat something. After resting for a day, we'll return to the eastern border of the war race. I still need to confirm whether the Kuang sect's people have escaped." Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Lu Fengxian was deeply grateful. He thanked Yi Qinghan again and again before respectfully getting up. The three of them went downstairs together and ordered a table full of food to replenish their blood and energy. They wanted to make preparations for tomorrow's departure. Lu Fengxian was very reserved while eating. He looked very pitiful and sensible. No matter how stupid Fanine was, she knew that he was doing it for her. She saw through him but didn't point it out. She only wanted to return this favor and think about the future in the future. He was just a little guy. Even if he repaid kindness with enmity, it would be difficult for him to create a big wave. Yi Qinghan looked at her but didn't say anything. He gave a portion of the drunken immortal wine he brought out from the drunken immortal residence to Fanine and drank the remaining half alone. Lu Fengxian stared at the wine in Yi Qinghan's hand and kept swallowing saliva. That was immortal wine. Drinking one drop was enough for him to cultivate bitterly for several months. If he was given a bowl, he could instantly break through 2 small realms. It could also change his constitution. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan didn't plan to give it to him. Fanine was addicted to wine. She didn't care about Lu Fengxian's gaze and quickly finished the immortal wine. Her face was flushed red. She snatched Yi Qinghan's remaining immortal wine and drank it in one gulp. Lu Fengxian's dissatisfaction grew. He thought that he was Fanine's savior, but he felt that Yi Qinghan and Fanine didn't treat him as a person. They couldn't even bear to give him a drop of such good wine. However, his cultivation was weak and he didn't dare to express it. He could only eat silently. "I'm not worse than you. If you can have it, I can have it too, and even more. Even better." Lu Fengxian roared in his heart. He vented his anger on the roasted meat in his mouth and swallowed a large piece in a few bites. Fanine and Yi Qinghan looked at each other affectionately as they ate. When Lu Fengxian saw this, he was filled with envy and jealousy. In the end, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He stood up and bowed. "Xiaonu will go up first. I won't disturb the two of you." Yi Qinghan nodded and indicated for him to go upstairs. "Wait, tell me. Who were the people who wanted to touch me that day?" Fanine suddenly recalled the scene of that day and immediately asked. Lu Fengxian's heart was already twisted to the point that it was deformed. Anyone who humiliated and bullied him had to die. So when he heard that Fanine wanted to take revenge on that group of people, he excitedly said, in reply to the esteemed lord, that was the Northwest Six Wolves. They live in the Six Wolves Mountain. They don't shrink from any evil. They recruited many criminals and formed the Six Wolves stronghold. They specialize in robbing adventurers and merchants who pass by. Where is it? Yi Qinghan coldly asked. It's in the northwest. It's about 200 to 300 li away from here. Lu Fengxian respectfully replied. Got it. You can leave. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and said. Lu Fengxian's eyes flashed with a cold light. He quickly turned and left the hall and went up to the second floor. Yi Qinghan watched Lu Fengxian leave and said in a low voice, This little beggar can't stay by my side. His eyes are filled with greed and revenge. He has the mentality of a gambler. Fanine nodded. She could understand Lu Fengxian's mentality. She sighed. If a person doesn't gamble, how can he survive in this chaotic world? I can understand him. As long as he has a bottom line in his heart, it's fine. I'm just afraid that he doesn't have any principles and bottom line. He only cares about Thorn and doesn't know how to repay kindness. Yi Qinghan looked at Fanine and knew that she sympathized with Lu Fengxian. He didn't say anything else and said, Senior sister, let's go to the Six Wolves Mountain. I'll break the bones of the people who bullied my senior sister and hang them on the mountain top. Chapter 1981. Yi Qinghan and Fanine left Wolf Pass Town. The town was named after Northwest Wolf Pass, so it was obvious that the owner of the restaurant was not an ordinary person. They were rather curious why such a powerful upper-level expert was willing to stay in such a godforsaken place for so many years. The two of them chatted for a while on the way. It was all about Northwest Wolf Pass, so they became even more curious. However, their target was not Northwest Wolf Pass, but Six Wolf Stronghold. The two of them wandered aimlessly in the mountains. Occasionally, they would meet someone and ask about the exact location of Six Wolf Stronghold. In less than half a day, they arrived at the foot of Six Wolf Stronghold. Six Wolf Stronghold was surrounded by lakes on all sides. It was easy to defend and difficult to attack. There were many experts, and 3 of them were at the lower level. They were Wind Wolf, Water Wolf, and Black Wolf. They were the 3 leaders of Six Wolf Stronghold. There were many boats on the lake. They looked like ordinary fishermen, but Yi Qinghan and Fanine knew that they were only spies from Six Wolf Stronghold. The two of them walked on the waves. This natural barrier might be a natural moat to lower-level experts, but to legendary experts, it was like walking on flat ground. Some of the boats on the lake quickly approached the island. Many experts with crossbows gathered on the island's beach. To ordinary citizens and adventurers, this group of people was an existence that they could not afford to offend. However, to the two of them they were just ants. Whoosh! The two of them rode the waves. Fanine's eyes were filled with killing intent, especially when she thought of Windwolf's actions. She wished she could send him to the 18th level of hell. Windwolf, come out and meet me. Fanine and Yi Qinghan stepped not far from the shore. They mobilized their divine powers and shouted. Their voices were like rolling thunder that reverberated throughout the island. Who dares to behave atrociously in my Six Wolf stronghold? An angry rebuke spread. The lackeys on the shore were finally agitated. The 6th leader is here. These 2 brats actually dared to challenge the dignity of Six Wolf Stronghold. Are they tired of living? Many lackeys reprimanded. Out of the 6 leaders of the Six Wolves Bastion, 3 of them were at the lower level. The remaining 3 leaders were almost at the lower level. The 6th leader, Poison Wolf, was especially vicious and protective. Therefore, he was respected and trusted by everyone in the Six Wolves Bastion. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a sneer as he stepped onto the shore. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Hundreds of crossbow bolts pierced through the air and arrived in front of Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan did not move at all. The crossbow bolts were all trapped in the void, unable to advance even an inch. Hum! The crossbow arrow trembled violently and quickly turned back to where it came from. Whoosh! Poochie! A short sound of breaking the air broke through the sky, followed by the sound of flesh being pierced. Hundreds of screams intertwined. The crossbowmen standing on the beach were all wiped out, leaving only Vicious Wolf standing there stupidly. Senior! Esteemed Lord! I didn't know that esteemed Lord had arrived. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Plop! The sixth leader Vicious Wolf's legs went soft, and he knelt on the beach. Yi Qinghan laughed coldly. Forgiving you is a matter for the eternal overlords of hell. As for me, I'll just send you over. Vicious Wolf's eyes were filled with fear. He wanted to stand up and escape, but he found that he could not even move. There seemed to be a majestic force on the ground that was sucking him in. His body was about to be crushed by an invisible force. Esteemed Lord, please spare my life. I've never offended you, Vicious Wolf begged in fear. Fanine walked over. She naturally recognized him as the person who had been in Wolf Pass restaurant. He was right beside Wind Wolf. Vicious Wolf looked at Fanine carefully. She looked so different from that day, like the difference between heaven and earth. Therefore, he did not recognize her and wanted to beg for mercy. Don't you recognize me so soon? Didn't you want to capture me and make me the mistress of the 6 wolf bandits? Fanine asked coldly. Vicious Wolf looked at Fanine in surprise and asked doubtfully, Who are you? Wolf Pass Restaurant. It's only been a few days. You're really forgetful, Fanine sneered and mocked. Vicious Wolf looked at Fanine again and immediately understood what was going on. He kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. Where are Wind Wolf and the others? Tell me where they are and I'll spare your life, Fanine asked calmly. They're drinking in the village. Lord, please spare my life. I had nothing to do with that day. It was Wind Wolf and the others who were making a fuss. Vicious Wolf betrayed Wind Wolf and the other 4 leaders without hesitation. Fanine sneered and stepped past Vicious Wolf. Before Vicious Wolf could rejoice, Yi Qinghan grabbed his head with his big hand and said coldly, Senior sister said she didn't kill you because she didn't want to dirty her hands. As a man, I'm not afraid, so I'll be a good person in my next life. Boom! Yi Qinghan gently pushed Vicious Wolf into the sandpit. Vicious Wolf's whole body turned into flesh and blood and mingled with the sand. The two arrived at the island. The island wasn't small and was surrounded by many villages. There were cliffs and precipitous cliffs that were definitely natural barriers. In the center of the island there was an unfathomably deep pit. Faint spiritual energy and white fog surged out from it. It was dark and deep with no depth. At a glance, it sent chills down one's spine. The island was divided into 2 by the deep pit. The 6 wolf villages' lair was on the opposite shore. If one wanted to enter the lair, they had to cross the single-plank bridge. There were burly men guarding the bridge. However, at this distance they could defend against lower realm cultivators. To Yi Qinghan and Fanine, they were useless. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan and Fanine crossed the single-plank bridge. The burly man held his neck as blood flowed out. He didn't even know how he died. In a cave, it was quite spacious and could accommodate a few hundred people. Now it was noisy inside. Drinking and the screams of women could be heard incessantly. Yi Qinghan and Fanine stepped into the cave. At a glance, it was extremely extravagant and lewd. More than a dozen young women were tortured beyond recognition. They didn't even wear a piece of clothing. If they were disobedient, they would inevitably be beaten. The moment the 2 of them entered the cave fell into a deathly silence. Yi Qinghan's aura was already very obvious. It was definitely the aura of a superclass expert. His eyes, in particular, were too aggressive. They were filled with overbearingness and the supreme dignity of an emperor. Feng Lang was shocked. He looked at Fanine and Yi Qinghan. He was stunned by Fanine's beauty, but was also intimidated by Yi Qinghan's aura. He quickly stood up and said, I didn't know that the two of you were coming. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently. He looked at Fanning and asked, Are they the ones? Yes. Fanning nodded and said. Yi Qinghan smiled evilly and said, Then senior sister can just watch from the side. There's no need to make a move, lest you dirty your jade hands. Feng Lang was shocked and quickly apologized. My two lords, is there a misunderstanding? We have never offended the two of you. There's no need to offend. I don't even need to be punished for killing you. Yi Qinghan released his aura and directly imprisoned everyone in place. No one could move. The weaker one's blood and qi surged and their blood vessels swelled. Their faces were ferocious as blood flowed out of their orifices. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Bang! The group of people fell to the ground. Only the few pitiful women didn't have any reaction. Even the powerful Feng Lang of the lower realm couldn't breathe. It was as if their necks were stuck. They looked at Yi Qinghan in horror as if they had seen a ghost. Chapter 1982. Inside the cave, Yi Qinghan made a grabbing motion in the air, and lifted up a few lower-level ants. Crack! An invisible hand snapped the necks of the lower-level ants, and 3 corpses fell to the ground like a pile of mud. There were only a dozen or so tortured women left in the cave, who were still conscious. They looked at Yi Qinghan and Fanning in fear. Go down the mountain and find a good family. From now on, there will be no more bandits in Wolf Pass, Fanning said softly. The dozen or so curled-up women were covered in wounds and were barely dressed. Yi Qinghan silently turned his head away. Although he was lustful, he was not lustful to just anyone. Fanning sprinkled her divine power and helped these pitiful people heal their wounds. Yi Qinghan took out some money and tossed it to them. These people took the money and casually took a few pieces of clothing from each of them and left gratefully. Yi Qinghan looked around the cave and said curiously, A bunch of stupid bandits sure know how to enjoy life. I wonder what they've saved up over the years and where they put it. Most of the places where the bandits hid their treasures were extremely secretive. They had to guard against outsiders as well as their own people. Therefore, Yi Qinghan scanned the area and did not discover where the treasures were hidden. Divine Bird, it's your turn. Are there any hidden treasures around here? Yi Qinghan forcefully pulled the Divine Bird out and asked. The Divine Bird lay on Yi Qinghan's shoulder in a daze. It looked around and said unhappily, What treasures can there be in this god-forsaken place? It's just disturbing this Divine Bird's sleep. This is a bandit's den. At the very least, there should be some faith and money. Have you become stupid from sleeping? You even lost your innate ability? Yi Qinghan stared and asked. Bandit's den? The Divine Bird's mind was filled with questions. It opened its sleepy eyes and looked at the corpses on the ground. It mumbled, How cruel. They didn't even leave a single survivor. Otherwise, why would this Divine Bird be needed? You talk too much. Why would I need you? Wasn't it just a treasure hunt? If I don't even need you to search for treasures, won't you be completely useless? I was thinking for your sake. I didn't want you to feel inferior and feel useless. That's why I killed them. Yi Qinghan quibbled, but deep down, he was regretting it. He should have at least gotten the money before killing this group of people. The Divine Bird rolled its eyes, speechless. Looking at this pair of weirdos, Fan Yin secretly covered her mouth and laughed. The Divine Bird could not out-argue Yi Qinghan, so it could only fly out to search for treasure. However, after circling the area, it could not find any treasure. There was only one place that was a little strange, and that was the deep pit. It looked very strange, and the spiritual energy was seeping out. It was probably not as simple as it looked. There might really be treasure here. Yi Qinghan followed the Divine Bird to the side of the pit. He looked down at the pit and felt like he was looking at hell. In this deep pit? Even I can't hide the treasure here. Can these ants do it? Yi Qinghan asked suspiciously. The divine bird replied, I'm not sure, but there's one thing I'm sure of. There's definitely no treasure hidden within a radius of 50 kilometers. The treasure hidden by the bandits is either in this deep pit, or a bunch of poor bastards. After robbing for so many years, they didn't even have any savings. After Yi Qinghan heard that, he reached out and grabbed the corpse on the wooden bridge and threw it into the deep pit. There was only a whining echo, but there was no sound of the corpse hitting the ground. Even after the echo dissipated, the corpse did not fall to the ground. What a deep pit! How did this group of people hide the treasure here? Fan Yin asked, puzzled. Perhaps there's another world. It's just that we haven't found the mechanism yet. Yi Qinghan said after some thought. Yi Qinghan silently pondered on how to find the mechanism. After about the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he finally heard a faint rumbling sound coming from within the deep pit. However, it was closely followed by the roar of a ferocious beast. That roar seemed to have come from the depths of hell, yet it also seemed to have come from a terrifying beast from the primordial era. Roar! The beast's roar reverberated in the deep pit. It was deep and vigorous. It was still powerful even from the bottom of the pit. It could be imagined that the beast's size and strength were absolutely terrifying. Fan Yin and Yi Qinghan looked at each other, especially Fan Yin. She was very knowledgeable and had seen almost all the giant beasts from the untainted land to the present day. She had even read about the extinct ferocious beasts in the historical record. The old man of the sky reaching church had also talked to her, but she had never heard such a voice. This sound is strange. Forget it. Don't take risks for a little money. Fan Yin said vigilantly. It shouldn't be a problem. These bandits have been here for so many years. There shouldn't be any danger here. The beast probably can't come up. Otherwise, it would have come up long ago. Yi Qinghan said calmly. However, Fan Yin was very vigilant. She said in a low voice, I don't think so. This deep pit gives me a sense of crisis. These bandits are too weak. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used this place as their den. The stronger one's strength was, the stronger one's perception would be. Especially, one's sense of crisis was the most sensitive. An expert could clearly perceive anything that threatened one's life. Yi Qinghan was also very strong. However, he was not as strong as Fan Yin. At this moment, he only wanted to take the risk to go down and see what kind of world was at the bottom of the deep pit. He wanted to know why a beast would appear. However, he didn't have any sense of crisis. He was only curious. Let's go. Don't make trouble. I really feel that this place is very dangerous. Especially this deep pit. It's like a bottomless abyss. A devil is summoning us. Fan Yin's heartbeat sped up. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He touched the tip of his nose and his eyes lit up. He suddenly said, Wait for me for a moment. Just a moment. I will control a corpse to go down and have a look. No matter how strong the beast is, it can't kill me with a wisp of divine sense. Fan Yin couldn't resist, and could only nod in agreement. Yi Qinghan pressed 2 fingers to his forehead and controlled the wind wolf's corpse with his mind. A wisp of his soul split and controlled the corpse to slowly soar into the air and quickly descend. After descending 100 meters into the deep pit, a thick white fog appeared. It wasn't poisonous, but it could block divine sense and eyes, making it impossible to see what was below. Yi Qinghan was skilled and daring. He controlled the corpse to rapidly descend. He went faster and faster. In the blink of an eye, he had descended 1,000 meters. All he could hear was the sound of the wind, but he couldn't see anything. How is it? Haven't we reached the bottom yet? Fan Yin asked anxiously. Yi Qinghan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He pressed 2 fingers to his forehead and controlled the wind wolf's corpse. If he wasn't careful, the corpse would fall into the abyss and his soul would disperse. Although it wouldn't affect him much, he would definitely be heavily injured. It would take months for him to recover. Wait a little longer. Yi Qinghan replied hoarsely. What can you see? Fan Yin asked even more anxiously. A thick white fog. You can't even see your own fingers. You can feel the wind and the cold. Yi Qinghan said slowly. Chapter 1983. Yi Qinghan used his extraordinary willpower to control the corpse. Although he was only controlling the corpse to descend, it was no different from him going down himself. Beads of sweat the size of beans dripped from his forehead. His breathing was rapid and his eyes were tightly shut. The image of the deep pit transmitted from the corpse's soul was no longer a thick white fog. It was clearer and more terrifying. The abyss was too deep. It was like a bottomless well. It was surrounded by mountains and precipitous cliffs, but there was no point of support. After descending for a full 10,000 meters, he saw some green vines and ancient pines wrapped around the cliff. These trees had existed for an unknown number of years. The growth rings on their bark showed the vicissitudes of life. Following that, a thick white fog appeared. However, the white fog disappeared very quickly. In the blink of an eye, a world appeared in front of him. There is indeed a completely different world, Yi Qinghan murmured. He scanned his surroundings with his soul and found many broken bones that had already decayed. The surrounding forest was a primeval forest. There were strange spiritual beasts, but they were too vicious. Some of the spiritual beasts looked as docile as kittens, but once they encountered living prey, they would go berserk like tigers and release killing intent. The light in the abyss was dim, but it was impossible to tell where the light came from. Yi Qinghan searched for a while and finally found an ancient giant beast. It was a reptile-type beast with a pair of wings on its back. However, it did not fly. Every step it took left a deep pit under its feet. Yi Qinghan controlled the corpse to approach the giant beast. He found that it did not even look at him. It was like he was an ant. Giants did not care about ants. Yi Qinghan touched the giant beast's thick legs. He found that the beast's skin was not only rough and thick, but also a defensive treasure. He estimated that even a peak's strength would find it difficult to break through its defense. This was only the tip of the iceberg. Yi Qinghan did not dare to go any deeper. It was good to know that there was such a world here, so he slowly retreated. If he wanted to go up again, it would be very difficult to control the corpse. Yi Qinghan gave up on the corpse and his soul quickly left. The moment the corpse fell to the ground, the giant beast seemed to sense it. It turned its head and opened its mouth. It actually spat out a mouthful of cold flames. The corpse was immediately frozen into ice. When the wind blew, it turned into fine powder. Yi Qinghan's soul trembled. He could feel the terrifying cold air even from far away. His soul was almost frozen. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan did not dare to stay any longer. He quickly rushed into the endless sky. An hour later, Yi Qinghan's soul returned. He still had lingering fears and his face still pale. "Are you all right?" If he did not have such thoughts, he would have died long ago. Yi Qinghan pulled Lu Fengxian and soared into the sky with Fan Yin. Their speed was as fast as lightning. This allowed Lu Fengxian to experience the domineering aura of an expert. A surge of ambition surged in his heart. The light in his eyes was especially bright. He wished that he could also reach this step. "I can definitely do it." Lu Fengxian clenched his fist and secretly roared, "I will definitely be stronger than you. Look at how you look at me with disdain. One day, I will make you my servant." Yi Qinghan was too lazy to care about what Lu Fengxian was thinking. As long as he did not show his dark thoughts and did not want to cause trouble, he would definitely kill him. An hour later, the three of them entered the small town. Lu Fengxian quickly took a few medicinal herbs and exchanged them for money. Although it was only a strand of money, to him, money was accumulated. 1 strand of money a day, 1,000 days would be 1,000 strands of money. No wonder Fan Yin was so angry when he was in despair. 3,000 strands of money was enough for him to struggle for nearly 10 years. Yi Qinghan looked at Lu Fengxian's joy as he took the money. He was angry but also unable to bear it. Forget it, don't make things difficult for him. I can understand how he feels. Who knows how many people he has to fight just for a bite of food. It's not strange for him to have such a personality. I was like that too. It's just that when I was taken away by the old man, I was still very young and my dark personality was twisted. He's much older now. If I treat him better in the future, he might change, Fanning said softly. I hope so. Yi Qinghan shrugged. He did not want to care about it anymore. He directly walked towards the Wolf Pass restaurant. However, his eyes were fixed on the third floor of the inn. There was a faintly discernible aura there. It should be the strongest expert within 1,000 li, the Northwest Wolf Pass. I am very curious. Who are you? Why would you rather stay in this remote village than enter the bustling area to cultivate? Yi Qinghan secretly muttered to himself. He quickly walked into the restaurant. Chapter 1984. Yi Qinghan stepped into the restaurant. It was already night time and the sky was dim. Many adventurers had returned to the restaurant to rest. Some adventurers could not bear to part with the money to stay in the restaurant, so they set up camp in the town and ate here. Northwest Wolf Guan walked down from upstairs. He looked quite dignified. He had a square face and sharp eyebrows. When he was young, he was definitely a handsome man. Good evening, Mr. Wolf Guan. This old man has been adventuring in the Northwest for thousands of years. You looked like this 1,000 years ago, and 10,000 years later, you still look like this. You are indeed old but vigorous. An old adventurer's face was full of wrinkles. He looked abnormally tired, but he was very optimistic. Northwest Wolf Guan had lived here for countless years and had never moved. He seemed to be very attached to this place, and he was very courteous to the adventurers here. He was always full of smiles, making people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. Northwest Wolf Guan smiled and said, "Old man, you've aged too much. You're already so old, yet you're still working so hard. If you died in the mountains, your corpse would be strewn across the wilderness without even a burial ground. Wouldn't that be very miserable?" The old man smiled and stroked a shabbily dressed child next to him as he said, "If this old man doesn't work hard to save some money for my granddaughter, how will she live in the future if I die?" No one in the restaurant laughed at him. Which adventurers did not fight for their lives? "Old son, if you really can't do it, just give me your granddaughter. I don't have any children or grandchildren in this life. If I can pick up a granddaughter on the way, it would be great too." Another slightly older old man laughed and teased. "You wish. How can my old son family's granddaughter be raised by others? These old bones of mine can still hold on," the old man said with a hearty laugh. The restaurant was very lively and there were no quarrels. Instead, it was like a family eating together. Northwest Wolf Guan's smile was very charming. He was cultured and refined like a kind grandfather. He looked at these adventurers as if he was looking at his friends. "This old man is in a good mood today. I'll pay for everyone's drinks," Northwest Wolf Guan said with a smile. "Ha ha ha, thank you, Mr. Langguan. I wonder what good news has happened? Let us be happy as well." Everyone laughed and jeered. Old Sun and the others looked at the Northwest Wolf Pass curiously. Although the Northwest Wolf Pass would provide free food, wine, and meat every once in a while, everyone would drink together to celebrate. This time it was the same. They were all happy for the Northwest Wolf Pass. Northwest Wolf Pass glanced at Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin indifferently and said, "This is something that everyone should be happy about." When the Six-Wolf stronghold was destroyed, I swore that I would not break the rules here, so I did not take action. Today, someone destroyed the Six-Wolf stronghold for me. It's worth celebrating. What? The Six-Wolf stronghold has been destroyed? Ha ha, this is great news. Are you serious? Which warrior did it? Everyone stared at the Northwest Wolf Pass and discussed excitedly. This person is in the restaurant, but it's not me, Northwest Wolf Pass said indifferently. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin were expressionless, but the little beggar's face was full of excitement. This was because everyone was staring at this table. Everyone was very familiar with each other. Only Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin were unfamiliar faces. If they were not the Northwest Wolf Pass, then only the two of them had the ability to kill all the experts of the Six-Wolf Stronghold. Thank you for getting rid of a threat for the Northwest adventurers. Today, this old man will toast you 3 times. Old Sun raised his wine cup respectfully. He was smiling so widely that the shape of his face changed. Everyone raised their cups and wanted to toast together. Yi Qinghan did not want to accept this favor, so he stood up and said honestly, "You don't have to thank me. I destroyed the Six-Wolf Stronghold not because of you, but purely to help my senior sister vent her anger. Everyone, please sit down." Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin and praised them, saying that they were a virtuous couple, a talented man and a beautiful woman. Fan Yin's face turned red from all the praises. Yi Qinghan was pleased when he heard this and could not stop smiling. Finally, he said happily, "I'll take care of everyone's meals today. Let Mr. Wolf Pass pay for the wine. I won't take the credit." A meal did not cost much, but for adventurers, they needed a large amount of spiritual meat to replenish their vitality and strength. Therefore, they still needed 30 to 50 faith coins. A table of 30 to 50 faith coins, so there were only 10 tables in total. It was nothing to Yi Qinghan, but for the adventurers, it was 3 to 5 days' worth of income. The adventurers laughed even more happily, full of joy and happiness. The atmosphere here affected Fan Yin and Yi Qinghan's mood. Fan Yin even promised that she would pay for their accommodation today. In fact, Yi Qinghan understood that she sympathized with these old adventurers and liked the atmosphere here. Otherwise, based on the fact that these adventurers insisted on putting her together with him, she would definitely have flipped out. At this moment, the atmosphere had reached a climax. Only Lu Fengxian was unhappy. He felt that Fan Yin had treated him unfairly. She could give the money to outsiders, but she was not willing to give it to him. Could it be that it was worse than an outsider? Fan Yin smiled and toasted with everyone, experiencing the atmosphere. It was as if her parents had returned in an instant. Her eyes were filled with tears. If my parents were still alive, they would probably be like this. Fan Yin muttered to herself. Adventurers were out adventuring all year round, so they aged very quickly. Their skin was mostly dark and had more wrinkles. Looking at the adventurers, she seemed especially amiable. Everyone else was busy celebrating and drinking, except for Yi Qinghan. He kept smiling, but his eyes never left Northwest Wolf Pass. If Master Wolf Pass is so amiable, why don't you sit down and have a drink with me? I have some good wine here, but I don't have a good drinking buddy. Yi Qinghan smiled. Northwest Wolf Pass didn't refuse. He walked up to Yi Qinghan and looked directly at Lu Fengxian, indicating with his eyes that he should go to another table. Lu Fengxian clenched his fists, a strange light flashing through his eyes. In the end, he stood up and left. "Please sit, sir." Yi Qinghan stood up and gestured with a smile. Northwest Longguan sat across from Yi Qinghan with a smile on his face. "It's rare to see a young genius like you in the eternal sacred land who isn't arrogant." Yi Qinghan took out some fine wine. It wasn't as good as Drunken Immortal brew, but it was still of the highest quality. He'd brewed it himself, and its aroma filled the air. Yi Qinghan stood up and poured a bowl of wine for Northwest Wolf Guan. He then poured another bowl for himself before sitting down and saying, "I can't be considered a genius of the Holy Land. I'm just a country bumpkin from a small region. It's Mr. Wolf Guan that I admire." I've fought and even killed upper-level cultivators before, but facing Mr. Wolf Guan, I'm ashamed of my inferiority. I reckon I won't be able to last more than 3 moves. A great expert like Mr. Wolf Guan, even if you enter the Holy Land, you'll be a first-rate elder. Northwest Wolf Pass's eyes flashed with surprise when he heard that Yi Qinghan was from a small region, but his attitude soon improved. Chapter 1985. Fanning sang and danced in the restaurant. Taking advantage of the alcohol, she danced the great Tao of mountains and rivers, causing the great Tao to rumble. Everyone in the restaurant was stunned. Yi Qinghan allowed her to fool around. Today, she was wearing his battle robe, so there was nothing wrong with it. Her dance added to her charm. Even Northwest Wolf Guan kept clapping his hands. Yi Qinghan glanced at Lu Fengxian and saw that his eyes were full of desire. He snorted but did not say anything. He continued to chat with Northwest Wolf Guan. However, Northwest Wolf Guan did not seem to be willing to say anything. He could not get any information out of him, so he treated Yi Qinghan as an ordinary friend. However, Yi Qinghan admired Northwest Wolf Guan from the bottom of his heart. He was calm, reserved, and had a good heart. He was qualified to be Yi Qinghan's friend. The meal lasted for 6 hours. Most of the adventurers drank too much. Even Fanning drank too much. She staggered as she walked. Yi Qinghan helped Fanning upstairs. After washing up, he fell asleep. That night, Yi Qinghan was very well behaved. He only slept with the beauty in his arms and did not do anything else. The night passed very quickly. Coupled with the effect of alcohol, it was already noon when the two woke up. The downstairs was already crowded. Perhaps because the news of the 6 wolf stronghold's destruction had spread, everyone rushed to spread the news. It was very lively and the town was very lively. Yi Qinghan and Fanning walked downstairs. The little beggar, Lu Fengxian, was already downstairs. He had ordered a jar of wine and was drinking alone. Yi Qinghan did not bother to pay attention to him, so he casually ordered some dishes. Everyone was very familiar with Yi Qinghan and Fanning. When the two appeared, a group of people came up to thank them. Yi Qinghan said with a smile, "You don't have to thank me. We will be leaving today. Today's meal will be on me. Enjoy your meal. By the way, I'll tell you a piece of good news. I didn't take anything from the 6 wolf stronghold. Although I don't know where the treasure is, the weapons and armor of those people are very suitable for you. You can go and take them after the meal." When everyone heard that, they were overjoyed. They didn't even eat as they prepared to head to the 6 wolf stronghold to retrieve the treasures. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment before reminding them, "Everyone, don't stay for long after you enter the 6 wolf stronghold. It's not suitable for survival and it's very dangerous, especially that deep pit. If you enter, you will definitely die. Please take my words to heart. I don't wish for all of you to die because of my mistake. Take the treasures and leave as soon as possible. As long as you don't touch them, you won't be in any danger. If there are any strange movements, leave immediately. That place is a dangerous place. Those people from the 6 wolf stronghold are lucky. Otherwise, they would have died long ago, and you wouldn't have to wait for little brother to take action personally." Although many of the adventurers loved money, they still took Yi Qinghan's words to heart. Moreover, they had been appointed by the Northwest Wolf Pass, so they naturally wouldn't stay there for long. They didn't even have time to eat before they rushed towards the 6 wolf stronghold. Yi Qinghan shook his head and sat in a restaurant with Fanning to eat something. Fanning sat cross-legged in the restaurant for half a day to recuperate. She had mostly recovered from her injuries. The rest could only be slowly recovered through years of recuperation. In the evening, before the sky turned dark, Yi Qinghan got up and prepared to leave. However, at that moment, a deep roar came from afar. The shock wave swept over, forming a hurricane. Even the houses trembled. Northwest Wolf Pass's expression changed as he rushed out of the restaurant and shouted, "Not good! The creatures there have come out. Everyone, leave Wolf Pass town immediately. No one is to stay for long." Northwest Wolf Pass's voice was loud and deafening. It spread across a radius of 50 kilometers. Then, he quickly rushed in the direction of the six-wolf stronghold. Yi Qinghan looked at Northwest Wolf Pass's departing figure in shock. He was rather surprised. Fan Yin had also said that the place was very dangerous, but he had not sensed it. Why was Northwest Wolf Pass so vigilant? "Let's go and take a look. Lu Fengxian, wait for us here. Don't run around and don't go near the six-wolf stronghold," Fan Yin said in a deep voice. Lu Fengxian's face was pale as he hurriedly advised, "Let's leave. Mr. Wolf Pass is so powerful, yet he is so afraid. Won't the two of you be courting death if you go?" Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin were Lu Fengxian's gods of wealth. He didn't want anything to happen midway. It was fine if they died, but wouldn't his wealth be destroyed as well? However, Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin ignored him. The two of them held hands and appeared 50 kilometers away in a flash. They saw a large group of adventurers fleeing from the six-wolf stronghold. They were the people from the restaurant last night. They couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. "Everyone, quickly migrate east. Don't stay here any longer." Yi Qinghan flew away, leaving behind this sentence. On the lake outside the six-wolf stronghold, Northwest Wolf Pass's expression changed. He used the heaven and earth powers to suppress the lake's surface, but the lake's surface churned as though a behemoth was about to break the seal. The water rushed into the six-wolf stronghold and kept rushing into the abyss. "Senior, what exactly is this place? What is being suppressed at the bottom of the lake?" Yi Qinghan flew in front of Northwest Wolf Pass and asked in a deep voice. "The entrance to the Nether Realm. The different ferocious beasts you saw yesterday are Nether beasts. They are bloodthirsty and incomparably powerful. Back when the Nether Realm was destroyed, the items inside weren't coveted by experts, so they were directly sealed here. They don't see light all year round, and the space is rather narrow, causing the nether beasts here to be especially brutal. They devoured each other and became stronger. Back then, I accidentally discovered this place and discovered that the seal here had long decayed. The nether beasts in the Nether Realm could come out at any time, so I stayed here to guard it. I didn't expect them to break it." Northwest Wolf Pass explained in a deep voice. "How strong are they?" Yi Qinghan asked in shock. "I'm not sure. But there are a lot of them. Leave quickly. I'll hold them off for as long as I can. Let the people of Wolf Pass escape further away," Northwest Wolf Pass said in a deep voice. At this moment, a figure, like a dragon flying between heaven and earth, broke through the clouds and arrived. It was so powerful that Northwest Wolf Pass was quite shocked. Yi Qinghan glanced at the newcomer and smiled instead. "Now we can't leave even if we want to. However, we can use him to deal with the nether beast. Maybe we can drive them back." "That person is?" Northwest Wolf Pass asked in surprise. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said, "The Crown Prince of the Holy Empire. Otherwise, who in the younger generation can be so abnormal?" Whoosh! At this moment, Xia Zhilong tore through the void and appeared on the lake. He glanced at the lake and stared at Yi Qinghan. It seemed that his injuries were at least 70 to 80% better. Otherwise, he wouldn't have chased after them in such a hurry. "Yi Qinghan, I said that I don't need to use the power of the Holy Empire to kill you. Today, I'll bury you." Xia Zhilong waved his hand and the 9 dragons fan appeared in his hand. He said in a cold voice, "Fan Yin, you'd better get out of here today, or you'll be killed too. I'll explain it to the sky-reaching school. The bloodline of the true dragon is really abnormal. He was injured so badly but he recovered so quickly." Fan Yin snorted and muttered to himself. Yi Qinghan said indifferently, "It doesn't matter. As long as you're happy. However, I don't think you can kill me today. Let's see how to escape from here first." Escape? I never need to escape, Xia Zhilong said coldly. Yi Qinghan curled his lips and pointed at the lake. He said with a smile, "You're not dealing with me. You're dealing with the nether beasts of the nether realm. Don't tell me that the crown prince doesn't know about the nether beasts?" Xia Zhilong's expression changed slightly. The corners of his eyes twitched. He finally felt the danger. Chapter 1986. The Nether Realm was the most ferocious minor world in the past. It was also the most rebellious. It never obeyed the rule of the major world. In the end, it was destroyed by the sacred emperor of the Holy Empire. Only a few ferocious beasts were left behind. As the crown prince of the Holy Empire, how could Xia Zhilong not know about the Nether Realm? Xia Zhilong looked at the surging lake and jumped into the six-wolf stronghold. He couldn't help but frown when he saw the crater flooding in like a waterfall. The seal is broken. Xia Zhilong cursed inwardly. The Nether Realm was famous in the past. After being suppressed for so many years, the ferocious beasts would become even more ferocious. Once something happened, they would need the support of several holy lands to suppress the Nether Realm with all their might. Whoosh! Xia Zhilong returned to the lake and looked at Northwest Wolf Pass. He said indifferently, "Let's not make any final struggles. It's impossible for the three of us to reseal this place. We need to inform the Holy Lands and have the elders personally come to reseal it. But if we don't reseal it, the seal will break soon." Northwest Wolf Pass frowned. Whoosh! Xia Zhilong opened the Nine-Dragon Fan and activated it with his divine power. The Nine-Dragon Fan turned into 9 dragons and rushed in all directions, forming a huge net that covered the entire lake. Even the island was sealed. Boom! Buzz! Heaven and earth roared and the lake trembled. The Nine-Dragon Fan hovered above the lake. The 9 dragons coiled around the ends and the dragon heads faced outwards. The Nine-Dragon Fan actually emitted an eternal might. The stronger the resistance from the Nether Realm, the stronger the might of the Nine-Dragon Fan. Fan-in, use your string to entangle the Nine-Dragon Fan. With our divine weapon and power, we should be able to seal it for about a month. Fellow Taoist, please go to the Battle Race's Battle Monarch City and have the old Battle Monarch inform the Battle Race, Holy Empire, Sky-Piercing Cult, and the Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Land to reseal this place. Xia Zhilong said coldly. Yi Qinghan was a bit surprised. He didn't expect Xia Zhilong to help him suppress the underworld. In fact, he didn't know that the Holy Empire was responsible for half of the underworld's suppression. If he left today, he wouldn't need to be blamed by the outside world. The Holy Empire would suppress him and even strip him of his true dragon bloodline. The Holy Empire's reputation would be ruined, and they wouldn't be able to bear it. Northwest Wolfguan looked at the Nine-Dragons Fan and knew that it was a divine weapon second only to the eternal sacred artifact. It was a top-tier treasure. Then, he quickly left. Fan-in waved her hand and the red string extended infinitely, locking the 9 dragons. In the end of the string wrapped around the body of the Nine-Dragons Fan. The 2 divine instruments shone brightly, enough to suppress the heavens and the earth. No matter how much the lake surged, it could not shake off the suppression of the 2 divine instruments. Yi Qinghan, on the other hand, had nothing to do. However, he was curious and asked in a low voice, "Someone like Xia Zhilong wouldn't care about the lives of the people around here. Why is he being so kind today?" Back then, the Holy Empire destroyed the underworld. Although the minor world was small, its existence was necessary, and no one could change it. Therefore, this place could only be sealed, and not destroyed. If it couldn't be destroyed, there would be a disaster. Later on, the Holy Lord personally promised in front of the world that he would bear the responsibility of sealing this place. However, the entrance to the underworld was in the Battle Tribe's territory. The Battle Tribe gave him face and agreed to seal this place together. The Holy Lords of the Sky-Reaching Sect and the sword Tao Great Eternal Sacred Land also agreed to seal this place together in order to save face for the Holy Lord of the Holy Empire. Yi Qinghan suddenly understood and nodded. I see. I thought this Xia Zhilong was a fake. Xia Zhilong coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan. Killing intent flashed across his eyes, and he continued to focus on activating the Nine Dragons fan. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but feel lucky. The Nine Dragons fan was strong against strong opponent. Otherwise, he would have been killed by this sacred weapon alone. Roar! Suddenly, an angry roar pierced through the defenses. Then, a winged creature rushed out from the abyss of the island. Its sharp claws tore through the void and reached for the giant dragon above. However, it was knocked away by a ray of light and crashed heavily onto the island. Roar! Then, more than 10 giant flying beasts rushed out of the island. They all had wings on their back. Some of the giant beasts were obviously terrestrial creatures, but they had already mutated. Some of the wolf-like creatures had claws sharper than divine weapons. They climbed up the cliff with their claws and rushed out of the abyss. Boom! The flying beasts rushed towards the Nine Dragons fan, but they were blocked by the strong force. The strings emitted a soul-stealing red light like the 8 trigrams, firmly defending the sky above. Fanine and Xia Zhilong stopped talking and focused on controlling the sacred weapon with their souls. The sacred weapon's strength increased by several times. Yi Qinghan stood to the side and waited silently. There was nothing he could do but wait. More and more beasts rushed out of the abyss. They were stronger and stronger. The power of the Nine Dragons fan had exceeded its limit. It was like an Eternal had descended and was desperately suppressing the underworld beasts. Nearly 100 underworld beasts had appeared on the lake's surface. All of them were giant beasts that were dozens of feet tall. They had sharp fangs and claws, and were existences that could split mountains and split the sky. At that moment, even Xia Zhilong's forehead was covered in cold sweat. If the seal failed, the 3 of them could forget about leaving alive. Time seemed to slow down a lot. The first day was relatively safe, but the second day was much more difficult. On the third day, Fanine, who was already injured, could not hold on any longer. Qinghan, give me the divine power. I can't hold on any longer, Fanine said with a trembling voice. Yi Qinghan did not hesitate. The boundless strength in his body quickly surged into Fanine's body. The strength was overbearing and surging. It was fundamentally different from Fanine's gentle strength, but with Fanine's body as a medium, the pulling thread's strength increased significantly. The strength in Yi Qinghan's body was like a vast ocean. It was not inferior to Fanine in any way. It was just that he did not know how to use it. Several days later, Yi Qinghan's expression remained unchanged. He did not feel tired with his body being so holy. But at that moment, Xia Zhilong's body was drenched in sweat and his face was pale. On the 10th day, Yi Qinghan's strength was completely exhausted. The horde of underworld beasts was extremely brutal. They seemed to know no fatigue as they crazily attacked. If this continued, it was only a matter of time before they were breached. The pulling thread and Nine Dragons fan's operation drew on the heaven and earth powers, but the speed at which they devoured the strength in their bodies was definitely not an ordinary weapon. It was already very abnormal for the trio to last 10 days without replenishment. Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong quickly took out sacred herbs and swallowed them in one gulp. But it was still not enough. Half a month later, the sacred herbs were scarce. The Nine Dragons fan and pulling thread's glow had dimmed significantly. We can't hold on any longer. If we do, we won't even have a chance to escape. Fanine, remove the pulling thread. Let's go. Xia Zhilong said solemnly. If we leave now, wouldn't all our efforts be for naught? Fanine asked indignantly. Senior sister, listen to him. We can't afford to gamble. I don't even have 30% of my strength left. If this continues and we are breached, we won't even be able to escape, much less fight. Yi Qinghan reminded her softly. Chapter 1987. Yi Qinghan secretly hid 2 sage elixirs in his mouth and secretly transmitted his voice. Senior sister, delay him for another incense stick's worth of time. I will recover my god power to its peak. Even if we run, we will make Xia Zhilong eat our ashes. Fan Yin had recovered half of her strength over the past few days and had been draining Yi Qinghan of his divine power. Therefore, she quickly took over Yi Qinghan's job and suppressed him with all her might. The 9-dragon fan was entangled by the strings. As long as the strings were not removed, Xia Zhilong could not leave alone. Fan Yin removed the strings. Xia Zhilong said coldly. Wait a little longer. My aura is unstable now, so I can't leave immediately. You should be able to wait for another 5 minutes, right? Fan Yin said impatiently. Xia Zhilong suppressed his anger. With a flip of his hand, he took out the best elixir in his storage ring. He had kept it to save his life, and now he had no choice but to use it. Whoosh! With a flash of golden light, the elixir melted as soon as it entered his mouth. It flowed through his limbs and bones. His divine power recovered rapidly, and his aura rose. In the blink of an eye, he had recovered 70%. Then, it slowed down. However, that was only relatively speaking. In less than 5 minutes, he had recovered 80%. 80% of his strength was still top-notch legendary level. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin still could not stand shoulder to shoulder. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's strength had also recovered to 90%. In addition to his saintly body, it was not too far off to say that he was at full strength. Senior sister, it's done. Once the strings are removed, get on my back immediately. I'll use a forbidden spell to bring you away. In a breath's time, we'll probably be able to rush out about 20,000 miles. However, when the time comes, you'll have to be responsible for helping me slow down the speed of my descent. Yi Qinghan transmitted his voice softly. Fan Yin was shocked. With her speed and shadowless cloud maneuver, even if she used all her strength, she would only be able to travel 10,000 miles in an instant. Yi Qinghan's shadowless cloud maneuver was only at the initial level. How could he reach such a level? However, there wasn't enough time for her to think too much. She quickly put away the string and jumped onto Yi Qinghan's back. She clasped her hands on his back, only to discover that Yi Qinghan had stomped his foot, causing mountains and rivers to crumble. He didn't even say a word as a green lotus appeared above his head. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the 6 Wolves Mountain. Whoosh, whoosh. Their speed was so fast that it was as if the world was flying in reverse. Even before their afterimages could be seen, the 2 of them had already appeared tens of thousands of li away. Xia Zhilong had just put away the 9-dragon fan. When he turned around, Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin had already disappeared. Even he didn't have time to react. Damn it! Xia Zhilong could only curse angrily. Then, he felt a violent evil aura sweeping over from behind. He could not care less and sped toward the east. His speed was as fast as lightning as he chased after Yi Qinghan. However, he did not find any trace of Yi Qinghan after a long time. Impossible! How can his speed be faster than mine? Xia Zhilong roared angrily and took out the 9-dragon's fan. He spat a mouthful of blood essence on it and chanted an incantation. The 9-dragon's fan turned into a dragon boat and carried him across the mountains and rivers, shaking off the nether beasts behind them. Wherever the nether beasts passed, nothing grew. All kinds of skills were never seen before in the world. There were many that controlled the 5 elements and the great Tao of heaven and earth. These ferocious beasts were definitely of the highest quality. The people of Longguan Town had fled, but Yi Qinghan seemed to have forgotten about Lu Fengxian. The little beggar was still in the restaurant of Longguan Town. At this moment, Lu Fengxian looked at the nether beasts in horror. He looked around and found no place to hide. He could only run to the basement of the restaurant and lock the door. He held his breath and did not dare to move. The restaurant was flattened, and the town was also razed to the ground. The basement might be the place where the people of Longguan Town escape. There was a hidden passage. The passage was supported by steel and resisted the trampling of the ferocious beasts, allowing Lu Fengxian to escape. After Lu Fengxian escaped, his resentment toward Yi Qinghan grew even stronger. Bastard, you obviously want to kill me with a borrowed knife. Yi Qinghan, you will die a horrible death. Lu Fengxian cursed unceasingly. He lay in the passage, trembling all over. He did not dare to move in the slightest. In fact, Lu Fengxian did not understand the real situation. He could not blame Yi Qinghan at that time. At that time, there was no time to save him. If he had saved him, the three of them would have died here. In a medium-sized city about 20,000 miles away from here, Fan Yin was carrying Yi Qinghan on her back at this moment. She shouted all the way, asking everyone to continue to flee to the east. Many people did not understand the situation. Instead, they laughed at Fan Yin like idiot. In order to not let so many people die in vain, she had to choose to expose her identity. She passed the message in the name of a true disciple of the Transcending Heaven Church. In the end, there were still some people who were afraid of death. They panicked and rushed out of the East Gate and the South Gate. Only a small number of people stayed in the city for half a day. It was not that they were not afraid of death. Rather, they did not believe Fan Yin's words. Even if they wanted to court death, there was no other way. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin had already taken advantage of the chaos to leave. Xia Zhilong entered the city from afar after half a day. He found that only 1/5 of the people in the city were left. In order to reduce the loss and restore the image and reputation of the Holy Empire, he had no choice but to use his identity again. He told the story of the rear. This time, the people in the city realized that the situation was not good. So, they took their families and fled the city. Xia Zhilong had only informed them. He would not stay here and wait for the last person to withdraw. So, he immediately fled the city. Those nether beasts seemed to have a target. They actually followed Xia Zhilong and Fan Yin's route to the east. All the cities they passed by were razed to the ground. They killed everyone they saw. Even the native vicious beasts could not escape death. They were extremely bloodthirsty. The huge vicious beasts were directly trampled to pieces. Their corpses were divided and eaten. Their blood was stained with blood. In the boundless territory of the war race, large areas of mountains and rivers were empty. Not many people lived there. Only adventurers were wandering around. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin were running madly with their lives on the line. Their route was no longer east, but south. They entered the desert area. I can't hold on any longer. Let's rest for half a day. Yi Qinghan said helplessly. At this moment, Fan Yin's legs were trembling and her eyes were lifeless. Let alone running, she couldn't even walk. As soon as she stopped, her will collapsed and she directly fell to the ground. The sun was high up in the sky. It was incomparably vicious and made people drowsy. Yi Qinghan did not dare fall asleep. He could only clench his teeth and absorb the scarce spiritual energy in the world. A desert vicious beast sped over. It originally wanted to take advantage of the situation, but it was smashed to death with a single punch. It actually ate the raw meat and drank the beast's blood. The beast blood contained large amounts of spiritual energy that rapidly recovered its strength. Yi Qinghan put the fresh blood into Fan Yin's mouth. Only after a long time did Fan Yin react. She fiercely swallowed a few mouthfuls of meat. She actually did not vomit and forcefully ate a few large mouthfuls. Refreshing. It feels like I've returned to my childhood. Ha ha. I ate rotten meat a few times and almost died. Fan Yin squeezed out a smile and leaned against Yi Qinghan. Huff, huff, huff. The two of them were breathing rapidly and could not calm down for a long time. Chapter 1988. In the scorching desert, other than poisonous insects and scorpions, there seemed to be no other creatures that could survive. There were also some ferocious beasts that fed on poisonous insects roaming nearby, but they were extremely rare. The two of them endured the scorching sun and were already extremely tired. Sweat poured down like rain. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and summoned the star-twining vine. The star-twining vine had a strong ability to survive. It actually took root and sprouted here, spreading continuously. The vines stood upright and formed a huge house, enveloping the two of them and blocking the scorching sun. Under the protection of the star-twining vine, the two of them finally fell asleep. It lasted until nighttime, and they realized that the temperature here was even colder than the extreme north of the Marshall Way Supremacy Holy Land. The most unbearable thing was the cold that reached the bone marrow and soul. Even if they were extremely strong, they could not endure the low temperature here. The desert in the southwest was a place that made people feel conflicted. It was unbearably hot during the day but unbearably cold at night. Even the poisonous insects burrowed into the depths of the desert to avoid the extreme cold on the ground. Fan Yin and Yi Qinghan were awakened by the cold. Their lips turned purple and they shivered. The two of them had no choice but to hug each other for warmth. Whoosh! The star-twining vine formed a ball and enveloped the two of them, isolating them from the low temperature. Only then did they feel more comfortable. The two of them still had less than 20% of their divine power left. They could not even protect themselves. The divine medicine had been used up. Yi Qinghan could only absorb the endless spiritual energy from the divine gold liquid. After wasting 1/2 kilogram of the divine gold liquid, the spiritual energy in his body was abundant and he recovered to his peak. Fan Yin's physical body could not absorb the spiritual energy of the divine gold liquid. He could only slowly recover. Late at night, Fan Yin seemed to have thought of Lu Fengxian. He said in shock, "Not good, Lu Fengxian is still in Longguan town." Yi Qinghan had long forgotten about Lu Fengxian. He thought for a while and replied, "The underworld beast broke the seal. No one within a few thousand miles could have survived. He should have died. Probably not even his corpse was left." Fan Yin sighed. His conscience could not get over it. He said in a low voice, "No matter what, he saved my life. When I recover my strength, we will go back and take a look. Even if he is dead, we should bury him." Although Yi Qinghan didn't want to go back, he couldn't bear to see Fan Yin take the risk alone, so he reluctantly agreed. After chatting for a while, Yi Qinghan took Fan Yin into his arms and wrapped her in his divine power and body heat, allowing her to sleep exceptionally well that night. The next morning, when the sun was not too harsh, Yi Qinghan removed the star-twisting vine and brought Fan Yin out of the desert. They found a mountain range with dense spiritual energy and absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. After resting for about 3 days, Fan Yin had recovered about 70% of his divine power. "Let's find a city and buy some pills. Otherwise, if we encounter another underworld beast or Xiaojilong, we won't be able to fight back," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Fan Yin stood at the peak of the mountain and looked around. Without a star map, she could only estimate the location based on her memory and deduction. This should be the intersection between the blessed Buddha Temple and the eternal sacred land of the Sword Tao. The blessed Buddha Temple is to the west, and the fire beacon city of the Sword Tao sacred land is to the east. I heard that the Pill Tao sacred land of the Sword Tao sacred land has moved to Fire Beacon City. "Let's go there," Fan Yin said quickly. Fire Beacon City. Yi Qinghan was very familiar with it. When they escaped from the blessed Buddha Temple, the first city they entered was Fire Beacon City. Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianluo were old friends as well. After not seeing each other for so many years, they had to go back and visit. Moreover, Qin Fenghua's soul was still being suppressed by him. Once he was done with his business, he had to help those people condense physical bodies. Yi Qinghan quickly nodded and confirmed the direction. Then, he and Fan Yin rushed towards the southeast. Along the way, they encountered many adventurers. After asking around and confirming that Fan Yin's deduction was correct, they adjusted their route slightly. After about 20 days, the two appeared outside Fire Beacon City. Looking at the familiar city, Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "Senior sister, this is the place of my old friends. Let's talk inside." Fan Yin nodded and quickly entered Fire Beacon City with Yi Qinghan. After thousands of years, he discovered that the city had expanded significantly. It was because of the Pil Dao sacred land that the city had expanded by more than 100 times. It was as prosperous as a big city. Yi Qinghan searched for a while and found the city lord's mansion. The huge Qin mansion stood in the center of the city. There were many passers-by and it was quite lively. The Qin siblings must have lived well these years. Yi Qinghan arrived at the mansion and said to the guards on both sides, "Tell Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianluo to come out and see me. Tell them that they are old friends." The guards were stunned. If Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin weren't so outstanding, they would have asked them to leave. "What are you waiting for? Go and ask them to come out. Tell them that Yi Qinghan is here." Yi Qinghan shouted in a deep voice. "Yes, yes, yes. Please wait for a moment." The guards quickly bowed and left. After a while, a young man rushed out of the mansion. He looked very dignified. It was Qin Xuanxuan's brother, Qin Xianluo. He had been in a high position for many years and had cultivated a strong sense of dignity and prestige. When Qin Xianluo saw Yi Qinghan, he was overjoyed. He ran in front of Yi Qinghan and was about to kneel down. Yi Qinghan held his hand and steadied him. He said calmly, "Now that you are the city lord, how can you kneel to me? Senior, if it wasn't for you, how could Fire Beacon City be so glorious? You are the benefactor of Fire Beacon City and the Qin family. Please accept my bow." Qin Xianluo said respectfully, "It's good that you have the heart. Where is your sister, Qin Xianxian? Ask her to come out. I have something to talk to her about." Yi Qinghan asked. "My sister will come out soon. She was in seclusion to concoct pills and is now resting. I have already sent someone to inform her." Qin Xianluo was very excited. He glanced at Fan Yin from the corner of his eyes and was stunned by her beauty. However, judging from her aura, she wasn't someone he could covet. Moreover, she came with Yi Qinghan. He didn't dare to disrespect her and quickly said, "Esteemed lord, why don't you rest in the mansion for a day? I can give you a welcome dinner." "No need. I have something to do. I will leave after I am done." Yi Qinghan smiled. At this moment, an ear-piercing scream came from the Qin mansion. "Master!" Whoosh! A figure dashed over. It was Qin Xianxian. He jumped into Yi Qinghan's arms and hooked his arms around Yi Qinghan's neck. He rode on Yi Qinghan's waist like a child. However, after so many years, he had the charm of a young married woman. He was graceful and charming and looked even more feminine. "Master, I thought you didn't want me anymore. You didn't even come to see us after so many years." Qin Xianxian pouted and said unhappily. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He groaned and said, "Get down! How improper! It's not good if others see you like this." "I'm not getting down. You didn't say that to me back then." Qin Xianxian replied coquettishly. Fan Yin's eyes narrowed into a line as she stared at Yi Qinghan's back. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but tremble. He quickly pulled Qin Xianxian down. "Let me introduce you. These two are juniors I knew back then. They can be considered as half a disciple." Yi Qinghan turned around and explained to Fan Yin with an embarrassed smile. Then, he said to Qin Xianluo and Qin Xianxian, "This is senior sister Fan Yin, a true disciple of the Sky Reaching School. Hurry up and greet her." Qin Xianluo and Qin Xianxian were shocked. They didn't expect this woman to have such a terrifying background. Although they were amazed by her beauty, They were more afraid of her identity. They quickly bowed and greeted her. Fan Yin didn't want to lower herself to be jealous of a little girl. She nodded calmly and said, "Which one of you will bring us to the best elixir pavilion? We need a large amount of upper-level sacred elixirs. The more, the better. The higher the quality, the better." Chapter 1989. Hearing Fan Yin's request, Qin Xianxian was stunned. After a long while, he smiled bitterly and said, "Although this is the Alchemist Association, the best alchemists here are only middle-level alchemists. High-level alchemists never show their faces. At least, there are very few upper-level sacred pills. Each upper-level sacred pill is priceless. We can't even buy them." Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin looked at each other. If even the Alchemist Association couldn't buy upper-level sacred pills, they could only go to the super-big cities. But there wasn't enough time. "Buy the herbs and I'll make them myself." Yi Qinghan waved his hand and entered the Qin residence. He wrote a few prescriptions and handed them to Qin Xianluo. Then, he gave her 10 million yuan. These were his last savings. "Buy as many as you can. If anyone dares to stop me, I'll kill him," Yi Qinghan said coldly. "While you're at it, send someone to the Sacred Spirit Trading Company to purchase the materials. The more the better, and the faster the better." "Don't worry, esteemed lord. Leave this to me," Qin Xianluo said respectfully. Yi Qinghan nodded and stood up. He said, "I'll go back to the Kuang residence. It will take at most 3 days. Just buy the herbs and put them in the residence." Qin Xianluo and his sister left. Yi Qinghan left the Fire Beacon City with Fan Yin. They took the teleportation array and teleported to the big city next door, the heaven-suppressing city. At the Kuang residence, Lin Wutian and the others had already returned. However, they were all heavily injured. Especially Yer, his origin source was almost damaged. Lin Wutian had recently been trained by Green Lotus Sword Deity, and had improved a lot. Although he couldn't use the Green Lotus Sword Song, he didn't have to surrender when facing Gong Wusheng and the others. Green Lotus Sword Immortal had created a sword technique just for Lin Wutian. It was fierce, domineering, and could kill upon contact with blood. The sword energy could seal the soul, and it was integrated with the solitary sword Dao. No one could see the shadow of Green Lotus Sword Immortal. After a few months of hard work, Lin Wutian reached the level of small success. His battle power was close to the legendary level. You can use the Lone Moon Windward Sword technique as you wish. You just have to remember that the sword is in your heart and you can use it as you wish. Don't stick to the small details and the sword Dao will naturally follow, Green Lotus Sword Immortal said calmly. "Yes, sir," Lin Wutian said respectfully, kneeling on one knee. You can go now. I'll leave the wooden sword in your hand for now. Keep it to protect your life. Don't use it unless you have no other choice. Once you use it, you must eliminate the source of trouble. Don't let anyone see the wooden sword in your hand," Green Lotus Sword Immortal reminded in a low voice. "Yes, sir." Lin Wutian got up and left. As soon as they left the courtyard, Yi Qinghan led Fan Yin into the main hall of the Crazy Manor. When Yi Qinghan saw that everyone had returned, he couldn't help but sigh in relief. At least nothing major had happened. Lin Wutian was overjoyed to see Yi Qinghan return. He bowed to greet him. Yi Qinghan saw that Lin Wutian's body was faintly discernible. He knew that Lin Wutian had improved a lot and nodded in satisfaction. Fan Yin was surprised. Lin Wutian's strength was definitely at the level of a true disciple of a sacred land. Even if he was weaker, it wouldn't be by much. It was unbelievable that someone like him had been trained by Yi Qinghan. "Wutian, I have a task for you. You can go out and experience the sword Dao that you've learned," Yi Qinghan said in a serious tone. "Please tell me, master," Lin Wutian hurriedly replied. "Go to the Battle Tribe's Phoenix Sun City. The son of war is in the city lord's manor. Go find him and bring Lin Shui back to the crazy manor with him. Don't let anything go wrong, Yi Qinghan instructed. Don't worry, master. I will complete the task. Lin Wutian bowed slightly and left with his sword. Fanning looked at Lin Wutian's back and shook her head. You're wasting a talent. An expert with such talent should be sent to the Sword Dao Eternal Sacred Land and trained by an eternal sovereign. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said proudly, if he stays in the crazy manor, his achievements won't lose to the Sacred Land's legendary true disciple. I can't be bothered to talk to you. It's good to be confident, but you're too arrogant. Can you train him better than an eternal sovereign? Fanning questioned unhappily. I don't have the ability to train such a legendary swordsman. Naturally, someone else will train him. Don't worry, he won't be humiliated, Yi Qinghan replied faintly. Only then did Fanning remember that there was an eternal sovereign behind the crazy sect. She guessed that Lin Wutian had been trained by an eternal sovereign, which was why he had such achievements. In fact, what she didn't know was that in the crazy manor's courtyard, there lived a top-level existence in the world. His individual combat strength was even greater than the sacred lord of the holy nation of Middle-earth. This was because only one person had truly killed an eternal sovereign, and that was Green Lotus Sword Immortal. Although the sacred lord of the holy nation had destroyed many great worlds, the masters of those great worlds hadn't completely died. Just like Green Lotus Sword Immortal, their souls and bodies had only been suppressed separately. Yi Qinghan wanted to see Green Lotus Sword Immortal, so he naturally couldn't bring Fanning along. However, he didn't want to arouse her suspicions, so he whispered, I'm going back to the courtyard to take a bath and relax. Senior sister, do you want to play with me? Scram! Fanning reprimanded in annoyance. Yi Qinghan grinned wickedly and quickly left the main hall, heading straight for his own residence. In the courtyard, Green Lotus Sword Immortal was still as beautiful as ever. Her temperament was like an immortal's. If Fanning was said to be the most beautiful person in the world, then Green Lotus Sword Immortal wasn't considered a peerless beauty in the world, but a fairy. Green Lotus Sword Immortal was gently playing her flute. The sound of the flute reverberated in the courtyard like the sounds of nature, but not a single sound was transmitted outside. The entire courtyard was filled with immortal aura, as if it was isolated from the mortal world. Yi Qinghan pushed open the door and entered. Seeing the peerless Sword Immortal, he ran to Green Lotus Sword Immortal with a flattering smile. He squatted in front of the fairy and gently massaged Green Lotus Sword Immortal's knees and thighs. He said with a flattering smile, Fairy, how have you been? Did anyone disturb you? If you have something to say, say it. If not, scram. Green Lotus Sword Immortal said coldly. Yi Qinghan smiled flatteringly. He stood up and ran behind Green Lotus Sword Immortal, shamelessly massaging her shoulders. He said with a smile, Fairy, why are you so angry? I missed you and was afraid that you would be lonely here, so I took the time to come back and see you. Don't think that I don't know what you are doing outside just because I don't leave the house. Yi Qinghan, aren't you looking down on this Sword Immortal too much? Green Lotus Sword Immortal coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan and said disdainfully, For a bastard like you who is both a master and a husband, your disciple wants me to teach you, and your wife wants me to teach you. Yet you are wandering around outside picking up girls. Are you living a comfortable life? Yi Qinghan grinned and said with a mocking smile, You have really misunderstood me. I'm outside, but my heart is constantly thinking about you. Teaching children can also help you relieve your boredom, right? Cut the crap. Just tell me why you came back. Green Lotus Sword Immortal asked. Yi Qinghan rubbed his hands and said with a mocking smile, My dear beauty, do you have any sacred artifacts that can save my life? Give me one. I only realized the difference between me and Xia Zhilong in the past few days. It's just a top-notch sacred artifact. Green Lotus Sword Immortal looked disdainfully at Yi Qinghan and said disdainfully, "You are becoming more and more arrogant. It's not like I haven't seen Xia Zhilong before. His strength is not something the current you can compare with. This is not something a sacred artifact can deal with." Chapter 1990. After being attacked by Green Lotus Sword Immortal, Yi Qinghan was stunned. He sat on the stone stool and stared at Green Lotus Sword Immortal. He realized that she and Fan Yin each had their own beauty and temperament that could make a man's heart flutter. Green Lotus Sword Immortal saw Yi Qinghan's lustful eyes and thought that he wanted a sacred artifact. After being stared at for a long time, she felt a little scared and directly threw the flute to Yi Qinghan. Green Lotus Sword Immortal pushed the flute to Yi Qinghan and whispered, "Take it. This flute was made with my soul. After countless years of worship, its power is not inferior to my sacred artifact. If you can use it well, it won't be inferior to the 9 Dragons fan. I'm just afraid that you won't be able to find the trick to using it." "Trick? Tell me," Yi Qinghan said excitedly. "But..." The Green Lotus Sword Immortal slapped Yi Qinghan's head with her slender hand and reprimanded him. "The trick I told you is my technique. Even if you can unleash its full power, it will be difficult for you to unleash even 20% or 30% of its peak power. You have to rely on your own comprehension. Don't always look for shortcuts." Yi Qinghan let out a mocking laugh. After retrieving his flute, he stood up abruptly and stretched out his head to kiss the corner of Green Lotus Sword Immortal's mouth. It was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. After that, he ran out, leaving behind some smug words. "Little girl, when I come back next time, my strength will definitely not disappoint you. I will definitely avenge you." Green Lotus Sword Immortal looked at Yi Qinghan's back as he left. She wasn't angry. Her face was slightly red and her eyes were filled with complicated emotions. After a long time, she sighed softly and went to the bamboo garden. She cut a piece of bamboo and brought it back to her courtyard. In the hall of the Crazy Manor, Fan Yin was looking around in boredom. When she saw Yi Qinghan return, she realized that he hadn't taken a bath. She raised her eyebrows and asked, "Brat, you dare to lie to me. Didn't you say you were going to take a bath?" Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "I thought about it. It's too boring to take a bath alone. Senior sister also didn't want to play with me, so I came back." "Bullshit. Do you think I'm a fool?" Fan Yin pursed her lips and bluntly exposed Yi Qinghan's lie. She stared at the flute in his hand and could tell at a glance that it was not an ordinary flute. She guessed it and said angrily, "If you want to visit the Eternal One, just say that you want to visit the Eternal One. Why are you talking so much nonsense? If you dare to lie to me again, I'll break your manhood." "Tisk tsk, what's wrong with senior sister? Do you want to be a housekeeper?" Yi Qinghan teased with a smile. "Ka. Fan Yin clenched her fists and her knuckles cracked. She raised the corner of her mouth and smiled evilly. "I want to be a wolf girl. Do you want to experience it? I haven't shown my true colors for many years." Wolf Girl was not a woman who was like a pervert. Instead, she was a woman who was as savage as a wolf. It was usually used to describe a woman who grew up like a wolf. For food, she would kill anything. She acted completely based on her instincts. That kind of primitive killing was often the most lethal. Yi Qinghan trembled and quickly shook his head. He smiled and said, "Senior sister, I'm just joking with you. Don't take it seriously. Let's go back to Fire Beacon City and refine the pill before returning to Longguan Town." "Humph." Fan Yin raised her head and snorted. She walked out arrogantly. Yi Qinghan followed behind helplessly. "Hey, you weren't like this before. I realized that ever since you met Fan Yin and Green Lotus Sword Immortal, you changed. Where did your manliness go? Why are you acting like a pug in front of the two of them?" the divine bird asked in exasperation. Yi Qinghan angrily glared at the divine bird on his shoulder. He lowered his voice and roared, "What do you know? Do you think I want to be like this? I also want to suppress them under me, but can I beat them? The two of them are good at taking care of people. They can even kill me if they go crazy. I don't want to die." The divine bird flapped its wings and sighed, "How sad. A hero knows when to yield and when to stand tall. What do you know?" Yi Qinghan retorted in disdain. The two men and one bird quickly left the heaven-suppressing palace. They activated the teleportation portal and rushed back in half a day. It only took them a day and a night. When they returned to Fire Beacon City, they realized that Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianluo only bought a few high-tier herbs. This was Fire Beacon City, the place where the Alchemist Association was located. How could they only get so few herbs? What's going on? There are so many alchemists in Fire Beacon City, and none of them are here to sell high-tier saint herbs? Yi Qinghan frowned and asked. Qin Xianluo smiled bitterly and said respectfully, "Esteemed one, please don't be angry. We can't do anything about it. A trading company appeared in the city and went against our Qin clan. Their background is not simple and they compete fairly with us. Sometimes, even the Saint Spirit Trading Company will help them. In fact, our Qin clan can only collect taxes in Fire Beacon City. We have no say in important matters. These people are too infuriating. They don't buy high-tier herbs at first. Even if they do, they are very rare. But when we try to buy them at a high price, they will offer a higher price than us. The Saint Spirit Trading Company and the other big factions are following them. When we went to the Saint Spirit Trading Company, they said that they have no materials and are not willing to sell to us." Qin Xianxian said angrily. Yi Qinghan frowned and asked, "What trading company is it? Who is supporting them from behind?" "It's called the Zhongjuan Trading Company. As for their background, we can't find out. We asked the disciples of the Sword Dao Sacred Ground, but they were unwilling to say. So," Qin Xianxian replied helplessly. "Zhongjuan Trading Company?" Fanning and Yi Qinghan looked at each other and shook their heads. It was obvious that they did not know the name of this trading company. However, to be able to get the Saint Spirit Trading Company to help them, it was either a branch of the Saint Spirit Trading Company or a faction that the Saint Spirit Trading Company did not dare to offend. No matter who is behind them, we will know after asking the people of the Saint Spirit Trading Company. I want to see who is ruining my plans." Fanning rolled up her sleeves and revealed her jade-like arms. She looked very beautiful, but in fact, it made Yi Qinghan's teeth chatter. "Where is the branch of the Saint Spirit Trading Company? Bring me there." Fanning smiled wickedly. Yi Qinghan looked at the Qin siblings and said calmly, "Lead the way for my senior sister. Today, I will help you pull out the thorns in your throats." Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianluo were overjoyed. They quickly led the way and ran to the most prosperous area in the south of the city. The Zhongjuan Trading Company and the Saint Spirit Trading Company were neighbors. They were supposed to be competitors, but in fact, the two companies were working together. For some reason, the Zhongjuan Trading Company and the Qin family did not have any enmity, but the Zhongjuan Trading Company just had to oppose the Qin family. As long as the Qin family agreed to it, they would oppose it. As long as the Qin family opposed it, they would agree. The Saint Spirit Trading Company and many other branches of the major factions supported the Zhongjuan Trading Company. They directly made the Qin family a mere figurehead. Although they still collected taxes, they still could not tolerate such humiliation. After a while, Qin Xianluo appeared near the central street in the south of the city. He pointed at the Saint Spirit Trading Company and the Zhongjuan Trading Company in the distance and said, "Esteemed lords, those two companies are over there. They colluded with each other and took away most of the Qin family's income. They are still buying high-grade sage herbs." Yi Qinghan waved his hand at Qin Xianluo and said, "You siblings go back. Leave this to me. Chapter 1991. Yi Qinghan took back the 10 million gold from Qin Xianluo and restrained his aura with Fan Yin. Like a mischievous son and a princess from a wealthy family, they walked into the Zhongjuan Trading Company with their heads held high. Are all of you dead? Can't you see that I'm here? Why aren't you here to welcome me? Yi Qinghan raised his head with an exaggerated expression. He looked like a rich man's son. Fan Yin also pulled on Yi Qinghan's arm with a look of admiration. She looked like a rich man's woman, her eyes full of admiration and love. There were many people in the Zhongjuan Trading Company. Many of them were here to sell high-grade herbs, but there were also many who were here to buy pills. At this moment, they all looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain. The disgust in their eyes was self-evident. A servant walked out of the Zhongjuan Trading Company. His attitude was not bad. He walked over respectfully and smiled. May I know what this young master needs? Our small shop has everything. We guarantee that you will be satisfied with the quality. How arrogant! A small trading company dares to say such things. Even the largest trading company in our town wouldn't dare to say such things. Yi Qinghan's eyes were high up in the air as he intentionally tried to find fault with them. The servant's eyes were full of disdain. However, he suppressed his anger and said calmly, "We are one of the biggest trading companies in Fire Beacon City. How can we be compared to a small town? Young master, as long as you tell us what pills you need, we can get them." Yi Qinghan was deliberately looking for trouble. He glanced at the servant and said coldly, "Is that so? I'm afraid you can't make the decision." The servant looked at Yi Qinghan and guessed that he was a rich man from some small town. What good things could he buy? He immediately replied impatiently, "Young master, don't look down on me. I'm in charge of buying and selling pills. As long as you tell me, I can make the decision." Yi Qinghan tapped the table with his fingertips and asked, "Auxiliary Superior Sage Pills, Restorative Superior Sage Pills, and Divine Power Replenishing Sage Pills. All of them are of high quality. Tell me the price for each pill." The manservant was startled. He didn't think that Yi Qinghan would actually want such a high-grade medicinal ingredient. This sort of customer was usually handled by the firm's manager, so how could he possibly know the price? His expression immediately changed. Yi Qinghan seized the opportunity and sneered. "What? Does the Zhongjuan Trading Company look down on me so much? Sending a piece of trash to entertain me? Are they looking down on me, or are they the only trash left in the Zhongjuan Trading Company? Are you looking for trouble?" The manservant angrily rebuked. Right at this moment, a middle-aged man wearing a brocade robe walked over. His eyes were bright. He waved his hand at the servant and had him leave. Then, he walked in front of Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin and said with a smile, "Since young master wishes to purchase the upper holy pills, this old man will personally entertain young master. We are not afraid of running out of stock, but we are afraid that you do not have the money." Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin were still as arrogant as ever. They leaned back in their chairs and looked up at the roof. Then they asked arrogantly, "Cut the crap, state the price." The middle-aged man suppressed his anger. He seemed to have sensed that Yi Qinghan was deliberately looking for trouble. However, he couldn't see through Yi Qinghan's identity and purpose. He could only endure and say, "The market price for a high-grade upper holy pill is 30,000 strands of money for one pill. The market price for a restorative high-grade upper holy pill is 80,000 strands of money for one pill. The market price for a high-grade upper holy pill that replenishes divine power is as high as 100,000 strands of money for one pill. However, we have a shortage of goods here. As the saying goes, the rarer something is, the more valuable it is. The price is all 20,000 strands of money higher than the market price. If young master can afford it, then buy it. If young master can afford it, then give me 1,000 upper holy pills. 300 upper holy pills for support, 300 upper holy pills for restorative, and 400 upper holy pills for replenishing divine power. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and spread the money on the table. He said proudly, "I have nothing but money." The middle-aged man sucked in a breath of cold air and stared at Yi Qinghan. Only then did he realize that the other party had come prepared. Yi Qinghan didn't simply want to make things difficult for these people. He just wanted to find out who was behind the Zhongjun Trading Company. Seeing the middle-aged man hesitate, he said impatiently, "If a dog slave like you can't make the decision, then get the master behind your family to come out and talk to me. I hate talking to slaves the most." "How dare you?" the middle-aged man said angrily. "So what if I am? Do you know who my young master is? How can a slave like you have the right to talk to my young master?" Fanning pretended to be seductive and lay on Yi Qinghan's chest. She looked like a fox spirit. Her voice made people feel numb and seductive. The middle-aged man was obviously the master of the Zhongjun Trading Company. At this moment, his expression was a little unnatural. He could tell that Yi Qinghan was here to make trouble. He didn't say anything else and said in a muffled voice, "Young master, please wait a moment. Someone will answer your request later." After saying that, the middle-aged man quickly left. In just a moment, he came back with the experts of the Sacred Spirit Trading Company. The people of the Sacred Spirit Trading Company had been taught a lesson by Yi Qinghan. Later, they sent a group of experts to take charge. However, they still knew about Yi Qinghan. Especially an old man who had been taught a lesson by Yi Qinghan. When he saw Yi Qinghan, his legs went soft. "Yi Qinghan. You're Yi Qinghan." The old man took a few steps back and said in fear. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and looked over. He found that the Sacred Spirit Trading Company had sent many experts. At this moment, he was even more curious. He raised the corner of his mouth and asked with a smile, "Since you know who I am, I won't talk nonsense. I told you that my rules are Fire Beacon City's rules. I want to know who gave you the guts to occupy Fire Beacon City and take over the Qin Manor. When we do business, we pay attention to the word profit. We give more profit than the Qin Manor, so people will naturally trust us. Therefore, there's no need to talk about taking over the Qin Manor. If Mr. Yi wants to use his fists to twist words and force logic, then we have no choice but to meet force with force." A white-haired old man walked out of the Sacred Spirit Trading Company. He should be the leader. His cultivation was also at the peak of the Middle Realm. His words and actions were dignified, causing the people of the Zhongjun Trading Company to quiet down. "Stop talking nonsense with me. Can't you see my purpose? If it was for the Qin Manor, I would have gone directly to your Sacred Spirit Trading Company. Why would I go to the Zhongjun Trading Company? I just want to know which power raised this dog, the Zhongjun Trading Company." Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Waves of murderous aura suddenly surged out of the Zhongjun Trading Company. Even the customers were scared and fled. Yi Qinghan felt that he had been targeted. Not only was he not angry, but he also smiled. He clenched his fists and said indifferently, "I'm afraid of everything, but I'm not afraid of fighting. Killing people and massacring a city is not something I can't do. Sacred Spirit Trading Company, I respect you as one of the 100 great clans. Last time, I didn't settle the score with you regarding the Infernal Realm, so you should give me some face and tell me who is behind this Zhongjun Trading Company and why they planted this dog in Fire Beacon City. In the future, I will still respect your Sacred Spirit Trading Company. Otherwise, I can make your Sacred Spirit Trading Company unable to move an inch." What an arrogant tone! Our Sacred Spirit Trading Company has been in the great world for countless years. Not even the sacred grounds dare to say something like this. Our Sacred Spirit Trading Company just doesn't want to destroy you. Otherwise, the heaven-suppressing prefecture city would have been destroyed. The white-haired old man retorted coldly. Chapter 1992. The old man from the Saint Spirit Trading Company wanted to go against Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's eyes were burning with anger. He clenched his fists, but held himself back in the end. There were a few powerful auras roaming around the Zhongjun Trading Company. They must be top-tier experts. Fan Yin whispered into Yi Qinghan's ears, "There are blood-robed guards in this trading company." Yi Qinghan nodded. He did not expect Xia Zhilong to have planted spies in the heaven-suppressing palace. If they wanted to attack in the city, they had to have a legitimate reason, not to mention that they were up against one of the 100 great clans, the Saint Spirit Trading Company, and the strongest faction, the Central Earth Saint Empire. Rules were rules. They could be ignored when dealing with the weak, but not when dealing with the superforces. Wouldn't that be giving them the chance to mobilize their entire army? Yi Qinghan, we have never done anything that breaks the rules in Fire Beacon City. The taxes collected by the Qin clan are paid by us, and we even take the initiative to hand over the taxes every year. In terms of business, we are competitors. If you can't compete with us, are you going to bully us and shut us out of the trading company? If you want to do that, you should ask the Alchemist Association if they will allow you to do so. The white-haired old man argued coldly. It's not that bad. I'm here to buy medicinal pellets. You won't shut us out, right? Yi Qinghan sneered. Shut us out? Lord Yi, you think too much. It's already good enough that you can walk out of this room today. It was at this moment, a cold voice came from upstairs and locked the entire room. Boom! The door was immediately sealed shut, killing intent filled the air, and an invisible superior aura shrouded the room, forcing the weak to kneel on the ground, not daring to raise their heads. Hua! The people from the Saint Spirit Trading Company quickly spread out and surrounded Yi Qinghan with their swords drawn. I'm so scared, Brother Yi. There are so many of them. What should we do? Fan Yin pretended to be terrified and asked while lying in Yi Qinghan's arms. Yi Qinghan smiled evilly as he stroked Fan Yin's back and gently said, "Don't be afraid, this is Fire Beacon City. Even if they have the guts, they wouldn't dare to kill in the city." The Sacred Spirit Trading Company and the blood-robed guards upstairs had yet to discover Fan Yin's true identity, so they thought she was truly afraid. Whoosh! 4 silhouettes appeared and they were all upper-level blood-robed guards. They stood in 4 different directions and an upper-level blood-robed guard slowly walked down the stairs. His strength was no weaker than Xian Xiu's and he was strong enough to hold down the heaven-suppressing palace's throat. You don't dare to make a move in the city? If I kill you, I'll announce that Yi Qinghan was arrogant and despotic, and tried to steal the company's pills. I'm sure the Eternal Sword Tao Sacred Land won't have any reason to blame us then. The powerful leader of the Blood Guards retorted coolly. Fan Yin glanced at the expert and found that she didn't recognize him. The sacred nation was indeed powerful, capable of producing experts from anywhere. Yi Qinghan stood up from his chair and took the money with a wave of his hand. He hugged Fan Yin's waist with his right hand and blew into her ear expressionlessly. It seemed like he was flirting with her, but he was actually transmitting his voice to her. Why don't we take this opportunity to remove the sacred nation's spies? Fan Yin pondered for a moment. The others were nothing to worry about, but the 5 blood-robed guards were a thorny problem. Furthermore, he was still injured. Dealing with the strongest blood-robed guards and 2 upper-realm blood-robed guards would already be very difficult. As for the remaining 2 upper-realm blood-robed guards, Yi Qinghan was definitely not a match for them. Fan Yin shook his head and sent a voice transmission to Fan Yin. Calm down. With your strength, dealing with 1 upper-realm blood-robed guard shouldn't be a problem. However, if 2 of them work together, you won't stand a chance. Moreover, we have no reason to fight inside the Zhongjuan Trading Company, but they do. Fan Yin explained. Yi Qinghan circulated his divine power and slowly spread it throughout his body. He squinted at the 5 blood-robed guards' unconcealed killing intent and sat back down as if he didn't care at all. A long red string appeared in Fan Yin's slender hand, and she gently played with it. Her charming expression could make anyone's heart beat faster. Those with weaker cultivations were mesmerized, but the blood-robed guards' expressions stiffened and they retreated several steps. Skiriching School's true disciple, Fan Yin, the leader of the blood-robed guards, blurted out in shock. I'm so excited. I didn't expect the Sacred Nation's blood-robed guards to know me. Big Brother Yi, I'm so famous. Do you admire me? Fan Yin teased. Yi Qinghan pretended to be infatuated with Fan Yin and said, Senior sister is so beautiful. Who wouldn't admire you? I can't sleep at night. The expressions of the Sacred Spirit Trading Company's old man and the blood-robed guards changed. They hadn't expected Fan Yin to be here. They hurriedly retreated a few steps and bowed. So it's Lady Fan Yin. This old man has eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please forgive him. Fan Yin was in existence equal to Xia Jialong. Even if she was weak, these people couldn't contend with her. If Xia Jialong had come in person, they would have knelt down to greet her. However, Fan Yin's face was filled with fear as she said, Don't scare me. You wanted to kill me a moment ago, but now you're bowing to me. Could it be that you want to distract me so you can silence me? The blood-robed guard leader's expression changed, and he hurriedly said respectfully, Lady Fan Yin, you must be joking. Even if you lent us 3 times the courage, we wouldn't dare attack you. Fan Yin restrained her playful thoughts and slapped away Yi Qinghan's mischievous hand. She stood up and looked down at the crowd. She said indifferently, That idiot Xia Jialong is good at cultivating subordinates. If I had so many experts, I could cover the sky with one hand. Lady Fan Yin, you must be joking. The blood-robed guards bowed. Fan Yin's evaluation of Xia Jialong was very insulting, but the blood-robed guards and the Sacred Spirit Trading Company's elders didn't dare to get angry. They could only stand to the side and wait for Fan Yin to speak. Hua! Fan Yin pulled over a rocking chair and sat down. She stretched out her long legs and put them on the table. She had a sloppy appearance, and her true nature was finally revealed. We're here to buy pills. If you scare me like this, how will the Sacred Spirit Trading Company and Zhongjuan Trading Company do business in the future? Fan Yin asked indifferently. Lady. At this moment, the Sacred Spirit Trading Company's white-haired elder turned pale. This involved the Sacred Spirit Trading Company's reputation, which had been accumulated over countless years to convince the world. It was difficult to establish a reputation, but sometimes, destroying it was just a matter of saying a word. Gossip was a fearful thing. Lady Fan Yin, if you want more pills, just say it. I'll give you a 30% discount and sell it at a loss. As long as you're happy, I'm happy, the elder said through gritted teeth. Even Xia Jialong couldn't buy them at a 30% discount. At most, he could only get a 50% discount. Fan Yin was immediately amused. She said without any trace of politeness, This old lady. Cough cough, give this lady 10,000 high-class high-grade sacred pills. The supplementary, restorative, and divine power replenishing sacred pills will be 30% each. As for the remaining 10%, I'll use soul-type pills to make up for it. 10,000 pills. The elder sucked in a breath of cold air. If she sold 10,000 pills at a 30% discount, the Sacred Spirit Trading Company would lose tens of millions of faith coins. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.